We are live on Architects of Humanity, maxed out here with how dangerous is belief. So we're looking into the danger of belief. Remember, belief puts a mask on the face of reality. Hard for a person to see what's real when they have belief in front of it. Preconceived notions, what they would like to be true, but not what is actually true. And I put the thumbnail with a perfect example of what people would call belief today. It's either they're praying to the religion of evolution, or they're praying to what basically a space deity, space, something from a monotheistic religion, and it's one or the other. It's both two same sides of the same coin. And the coin is called control. It's to control your mind, whether you're going to believe in the ape or space Jesus, one or the other, or whatever space, deity. Now, I'm not going to say that everything in religious books are false. Like some people might come to the conclusion of that because of maybe abuse of blatant lies that we do see. We see a lot of people that claim to be religious that are not really respectful people. They've lost respect for themselves. Some people might even call them horrible when we look at some of the televangelists. And a televangelist in the university would be the high priest, the professors. So they push their version of religion as well. It's the other side of the coin. When I say that evolution is basically pseudoscientific blackface, like Al Jolson used to do blackface, if anybody looks that up. And it was horrible at the beginning of the 19th century, even before that, where evolution was solidified as a pseudoscience under the disguise of being science. Now, we already know the pictures of Jesus and other deities that they put forth. These pictures were not accurate. And it was basically, again, pointed toward making a certain people feel lesser than others. The whole image, the concept of what somebody might call a god deity might be, which we see now in common sense, could not be all power, omnipotent and all seeing. I mean, just reading some of the books, it's very it has a lot of contradictions, man. But so does evolution. So does the religion of evolution. The blackface type of stuff in evolution is brutal. I was in the Museum of Natural History, and I took these pictures where, it showed this picture here. I blocked out the parts that just to stay within the guidelines. This picture here is showing two what would be called hominids of the beginning of what the fairy tale, to say, oh, well, apes started to transform. And you notice how they put them with the arm around it. I mean, this is a pure, full-blown fairy tale in the Museum of Natural History in Manhattan. I call it the Museum of Playful History. It's his story, the Museum of Playful His Story, or the Museum of Naturally His Story, but they call it the Museum of Natural History. And it's a nice place to take people if they want to believe in fairy tales, saying that this is the first so-called human couple. And then they show humans as if they're like primitive, monster-like beings, which of course always depict people of color. This is why I say it's the modern blackface. When you look at how they depict Africans in this, and it's just horrible. I mean, it's horrible. They had an exhibit where they showed ancient or so-called Chinese people, which was even, they protested and had that removed from what I heard. But then when you go across this exhibit, right, you see this in the center when you walk in. So this is the glass case. This is their shrine right here. And then next to it on the side, you see the guy like as if he's some type of animal. And then they show you we already see how they depict black people in many movies and just stereotypes. And when you look at this, this is like totally unscientific when you look at this. But then when you look across the hall, you see this picture and it says modern man. So when people tell me that this is not based, evolution created race-based racism. Racism was before race. Race is not the father. Race is the child. And I forgot the guy that was quoted in saying that. He wrote it in a book. I think I had it. Let me see where I got it saved. But he amazing writer, and I think it's in this one here. Yeah, amazing writer, where he talked about how, I think he wrote a book, The World and Me, something like that. I'm looking for his I know I had it here somewhere. I can't believe I thought I saved it in here under Darwin. Okay, let me see. Darwin's Call for Extinction. We have that in The Descent of Man. And then there was a few others here. But when we look at this, we see that that's supposed to depict modern man. And when you look across the whole to Africa, it depicts these people as animals. And then it goes back into some type of hominoid. And all of this is totally unscientific. And when people try to say that it's not based on a type of racism, yeah, and they definitely don't show. They'll come up with a story of how they lived, you know, the fairy tale of that. But when you look at other museums and you see models like this, which is just, I mean, it's really messed up, because people might say, well, wait a minute, that's not racist. But then you go to other museums and you see this, and this is brutal. I mean, this pictures say more than words. Models say more than words. Sculptures say more than words. To say this, what are you saying? Everybody else behind this guy has a tan. It's as if, and this is nothing against my brothers and sisters who happen to look like the guy in the front of this, but I'm surprised they aren't calling this out. And this is in the museums. You see it here in this one, everybody behind him. Evolution is just its whole mode of thought is to get people to think that people of color are closer to apes than people with less color. And we see that in these charts right here. We've seen it in the propaganda. It is a belief system where people don't even know that they're buying into racism. And that's basically what it is. Yeah, man. And you know, they just, I'm surprised that people don't see this, or they don't want to see this. It's like honest people will say they didn't know that they were racist, that they didn't see it. It was so blinding. They were inundated with it that they grew up thinking it was normal. Alexa says, MD, what part of history can we believe is true? I mean, they lied to us in the modern time with the 20V and the 2001 thing. So why couldn't they have lied about past events? Well, the only way to see through this is to think. And it becomes a battle every day for your mind, because they want to control it. Now, everything that they've told us in history needs to be questioned. Every single thing. The only things that I wouldn't say believe anything, because that's the danger of belief. The danger of belief is to think that belief is going to get you to the truth. No, thinking is going to get you to the truth. So we know that, everybody here knows that thinking suspends belief, just the way belief suspends thinking. And like we talked about self-respect, credit to ethics, that if you respect yourself, you'll respect everything around you. Any disrespect, any destruction of life is a lack of self-respect. Also, I'd like to add into that is that the search for truth is respecting yourself enough to know that you are worthy of the truth. When somebody lies to you, it's not the lie, it's not the mistrust, it's really the thought of, wow, you weren't even worth telling the truth to when you really look at it. That's the problem with the lie. Not that it's untrue. Not that, that's by the wayside. We already know that. That goes without saying. But to say, wow, you weren't even worthy of the truth. And sometimes we will think we're respecting ourselves, but we stop thinking when we accept something that they've told us. Because deep down inside, we don't even know that we feel in a way that we're not worthy of the truth. We'll stop searching. People are looking to stop searching. They're looking to say, hey, you know what? Can I rest here? Phew. Kind of like we talked about on the stream. It's like a lot of religious people with deity-based religions are like, man, I can just say God did it and I can rest. And that's the same thing with the religion of evolution. Oh, I can just say, you know what? Well, these people are lesser, and any type of archaeology that says they're not lesser, they'll militarize it, they'll hide it, that we already showed with the inventions. They'll say, oh no, that's pseudoscience. These are expert liars that we're dealing with, expert level. Maddie says, when you think about evolution, you have to remember it is a Western construct and evolved to intelligent white European people. It is very much a Western concept. And it is really sad that people have bought into that. It really is, man. And I've showed it. I mean, when I say, look, that whole, you know what they call that in the museum and in the books that they fake this stuff and they put the ape to the man like this. They call that the March of Progress. It's horrible, man. It's horrible. I mean, to have people depicted on one side as primitive, as basically, it's like, what the heck? And then the other side, you see a guy with clothes and he built shelter. Oh, this is modern man, And what did he build it out of? The bones of something else. I mean, this is such a fairy tale. It's ridiculous, man. It is ridiculous. And people don't want to see through that. Yep, the march of delusion. Exactly. The march of delusion, man. And this is nothing against people. I'm not calling anybody racist or anything for believing in it. It's the lack of wanting to know the truth. Without knowing, without realizing it, that deep down inside, they're not respecting themselves because they don't think they're worthy of the truth. But they don't really know that. They haven't acknowledged that yet. They think that they're actually, they think that they found the truth when it's just a belief. And this was a great point brought up on one of the other streams with ethics, that they try to push the thing of saying religion has caused good people to do bad things the most, right? But it's not religion. When you boil it down, what is religion based on? Belief. Belief causes good people to do bad things. The people with Stalin that believed in evolution, the people with Mao Zedong, you're talking about tens of millions of people off, more than all of the religious wars. So if we really look at belief is the thing that causes good people to do harm to somebody who shouldn't have any harm done to them. But what causes those good people to do that? Belief. And the belief in evolution, that they think that they're better than these other people, whether religion pushes it or evolution pushes it, because we definitely see evolution pushing that. During the American slave trade, right? The chattel slavery and the Emancipation of Proclamation, we have a point where the country went into civil war, and they weren't trying to free slaves. It was basically an economic thing. I mean, remember, you're dealing with monsters. And when they ended the Civil War, this is the crazy thing. And I got into this the other day with, people on the stream. They were very unyielding, and that's okay. We're supposed to test each other's ideas. But when I brought up the Klan, one thing, I don't know if I mentioned on that stream, the Civil War it's basically believed that it was only about slavery, saying, okay, we're going to end it. We're going to openly end it the way Britain had stopped it before, saying, all right, we're going to colonize you, but we're not going to call it slavery. We won't enslave you. And anybody that fights for them, we're basically free, but you're born free, really. It's just basically an abductor, a kidnapper, a terrorist telling you that they're not going to terrorize you as much. But the year that the Civil War ended, something odd happened later that same year. The Ku Klux Klan was founded. So in other words, Black people now not being able to be legally enslaved, you had a terrorist group formed in the same year, a few months later, the Ku Klux Klan. Well, go figure, right? And that organization is still here today. So when I spoke about that, and it was brought up trying to diminish it, trying to code over it, well, they don't really have power now. Well, they definitely do. They definitely do. All you got to do is look in the White House. It's right there. It's there, man. It's like you ain't gonna you ain't gonna get away from that easy. It ain't gonna get it. It's just, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I found the quote. It was from Ta-Nehisi Coates. He wrote a book. I think I had it in. I thought I saved it, but I think it was his book. Yes, Between the World and Me. Ta-Nehisi Coates. He said in the book that it was a little different than what I said, but he said, but race is the child of racism, not the father. So the prejudices existed before the classification, the pseudo classification of race. And with that, people were more than happy to make these models. If you ever notice, they love to make this blackface, these black-faced half humans going from the half human hominoids, going right to Africa, and then going to other countries too, and then coming and saying, this is modern man. I'm surprised people don't have more of a problem with this, especially with these type of, I think this might be South Korea, I think. And I'm not sure if this is in Beijing, but you can find museums of natural history around the world. And anywhere that you go to try to dig up more history, it's militarized, like this AI picture that was made here to show how right under the scene is the military. It's like the stream we did before, is the military behind everything. Behind that white picket fence and that American dream is the military. Like George Collins said, you have to be asleep to believe the American dream. It's just, it is what it is. I'm just throwing out some thoughts here. One reason Lincoln signed the proclamation was due to English law that forbid it from assisting a country that slavery was legal. Wow. So they just said, you know what, we'll install like some serious Jim Crow after that, to just oppress the people to the next level, man. It's crazy. But according to this guy that wrote the book, he says Coates argues that the invention of race, hierarchical physical categorization, was designed to justify exploitation, meaning racism, the action, the system, came before the concept of race. And it also exonerated a lot of the crimes. They scrapped all of the treaties with the Native Americans, basically looking at them like Charles Darwin tried to imply, that they were just an advanced form of animal. They would call them the savage races in the Descent of Man. But evolutionists don't like to talk about this. When you notice that some evolutionists just think that they're at the top of the scale, I don't know, I don't know what people would have to say about this. They will, like I said before, an evolutionist will always lie. And I would say, you're telling me these images here don't subliminally put something in people's minds to make them feel like they're lesser, to constantly put that, everybody of color is trailing behind this guy. Meanwhile, this is not all people that look like this, but this was the majority of what is raping the planet today. I had written a passage decades ago called Planet Rapers. I didn't publish it. I might in the future, because a lot of the writings, some people might look at them as offenseful. If somebody is stealing people and enslaving them, how is it offensive to just to say what's going on? It's like, look at what's going on in the country today. A golden statue put up by some monster I doubt you can call it a leader. That's more like a dictator, basically. I mean, the systematic rooting out of anybody of color in many positions in just these last few months, people are noticing that on the next level. So when I say the Klan is alive and well, and people say, no, well, they don't have enough power. Well, look at the so-called commander-in-chief. His actions, the fruits, for lack of a better term, that religious people would agree with, the fruits that he bears, what he produces, and evolutionists can look at it that way. Because they're, like I said, two sides of the same coin. You look at that and you say to yourself, like, wow, this guy is just producing. This is the Klan without a hood. And I'm not saying that the Democrats are any much better. Biden, we've already seen what he has said through his career. And there's a lot of Klan members that fit the character. What was it, Clayton Bigsby, that Dave Chappelle had made? Yeah. And you see this, man. Yeah. We see what they put there, and I don't believe Africa. I don't believe that either. I mean, you have people that are living in accordance with the land and understand how to survive. I mean, that's ingenious. I think it was David Cho. He's a multimillionaire that he's gone on adventures in Africa, talking about how some tribes can communicate with birds that will lead them to honey, and they'll give the birds some of the honey after they find it. And what's amazing about these birds is, if the bird leads an animal to the honey source and they don't reward the bird, the next time the bird will lead them to danger. That's amazing when you think of the intelligence there. But evolution says, no, everybody can't have intelligence. Animals can't have intelligence. Only those people at the front of the so-called march of delusion. That's why they bring in the IQ thing, thinking everybody else is of lesser IQ. Meanwhile, somebody that knows how to plant and harvest food technically and build shelter is smarter than any person that can score well on a written test. It becomes a clown show on the next level. It's like the whole Neanderthal lie. And I wanted to go through that with Professor Rainer Prost von Zeiten, a prominent German anthropologist at Frankfurt University in Germany, was found to systematically falsify the ages of numerous hominid and human remains over his 30-year career, with estimates suggesting over 20 plus key fossils were misrepresented. So the lie of evolution again brought people into a belief that's going to be hard to kick. You got people today that still believe in the cavemen and the Neanderthals, when this guy, his fraudulent activities exposed in 2004 and 2005. So this is just basically 20 years ago. So These last 20 years, people are still believing that. This is how much it soaks into people's minds. So it primarily involved taking legitimate younger human bones and assign. They try to say, oh, they're extremely old, right? Old radiocarbon dates to claim they were from the so-called Paleolithic. I love the way they name these things. It's like I said, expert liars. Expert lies, just like the deity religious people too, man. Don't think that they're too much better. A lot of people claim to be religious in a deity type of thing, and they're not really. They're just like we see it with Andrew Wilson and these other guys. These are not Christians. These are nationalists that basically spread hate. So one of his so-called frauds include Hanofferson man, the Neanderthal modern hybrid. Prosh dated this skull fragment to 36,000 years old, claiming it was a missing link. Again, the missing link. No, the non-existent transitional speed doesn't exist. Somebody would be like, wait a minute, it doesn't exist. So why are you saying it's missing? Because like I said before, they will always lie. So they try to say this was a link between the Neanderthals because it was found in Neander Valley. That's what the name comes from. The link between that and modern humans. Redating at Oxford University, though, revealed it was only about 7,500 years old. Now, a lot of these carbon dates are not as accurate as they should be, but sometimes they debunk one another. Now, I just had to drink some water. Panderborn, Sandy Man, Prosh claims was 27,000 years old. And they found out it was a man who died around in the year 1750. 27,000 years old to 250 years old. Wow, when you think of that, right? When you think 100 times older, they create these things out of thin air because, of course, these guys are thinking that they're better than other people. That's the danger of belief. The danger of belief. If people could see that, then maybe they would stop believing. If they would respect themselves enough to know that they're worthy of the truth, not worthy of to stop thinking after somebody makes a fake model of a skeleton and says, look, this is proof that evolution is real. No, it's not. It is not. It is the least. Now, trying to see if I can find this other one. So with Coates, when he wrote that thing about race is not the father of racism, it is the child. He also went into saying that that the core beliefs, right? Like he was getting into facial features as indicators. Proponents historically believed specific traits such as high foreheads led to intellect. The receding chins were weakness. And we see that today in the looks theory thing. Directly indicated personality. I mean, these guys were looking at anything. If anybody looks up drapetomania, Benjamin Rush, I think it was, so-called father of modern psychology, said that there's an illness called drapetomania that causes slaves to want to run away and be free. The darker the skin, the badder the affliction. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, this is, anybody can look it up, man. Drapetomania. Man. And, you know, this is even crazier. How do you cure it? By whipping them. You can whip it out of them. So somebody that is trying to escape this kidnapper, this abductor, because they're being treated in a monstrous way. They're being raped, pillaged, plundered on a daily basis, just treated horribly. Tries to free themselves, and they will literally, they were making a pseudoscience saying, oh no, that person, you know why he's running away? Not because we're mistreating him, it's because he has drapetomania. And what's one of the symptoms of it? A dark skin. And wanting to run away from his abductor. And how do you cure that? Well, you whip them. That was the scientific consensus on this, man. This is like almost unbelievable. Scribe, what's up, bro?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah,
No, you were
man.
saying something earlier about the caveman thing.
Yeah,
I was
this
looking at
is
it.
at the exhibit
Well,
right here. This is the pictures I took at the Museum of Natural History. The hominoids. Then they show this man from Africa. I think this was actually even part of the Chinese like type of exhibit. And then they go to Africa and they try to make them look so savage. And across the hall from this is modern man. Well, what do you know? With clothes, and he's building a fortress out of bones, a death, again, bone worship. He's getting firewood. But these people over here are just savages. And if somebody says, oh, well, no, it's not based on racism, well, you can look at these models. Everybody else behind this guy is tan. So basically, as you get whiter, you get more evolved. That's what evolution is. Evolution is one of the most racist religions that I have ever studied.
okay, let's look at a different point of view. Like the very
And,
first guy you have
and
on
look at
there,
this. Look at this one here
the
too.
hair,
All right, go ahead. You want a different point of view? Go right ahead.
the hairy guy, right? The first one
Hmm.
that exists, right? That exists from what we call Bigfoot, what do you want to call it, in different parts of the world, and in every language of different parts of the world, it's always translates to hairy man.
So you
Problem
trying
is
to tell
this.
me that guy in the front is Bigfoot?
Well, the one that they're showing in the very beginning, right there, the hairy guy, like full body hair, facial looks like a human. Yeah, that's
Which
exactly
which
what they look
which
like.
guy are you talking about? The white guy in the front?
No, the very first little hairy guy.
The little tiny the little tiny fake
Yeah, but they're
model?
not tiny. They're not tiny. But I'm saying they look similar to that. They have full bodied hair. They have
Wow.
the facial thing. No, I'm saying Bigfoot. That describes what it looks like. But the issue is, it fits everything perfectly, like they're showing you on the thing with the hair and all that. But the problem is these things have other powers.
Really?
So think about that. They want to say this caveman thing that we want to call primitive because they do mess with sticks and rocks and all these things apparently. But the issue is they have telepathy. The issue is they have all these extra abilities that don't conform to reality. What we want to say, oh, we came from that or whatever. But the hilarious thing is that that thing still exists or
So
exists today.
you really think that thing, so you're just bypassing the whole thing about evolution being based on racism.
No, I'm just saying that look at how they take something like that that does exist and they want to say, oh, it doesn't exist. These other things did exist that they were primitive, whatever,
Really?
and all
They
that
did?
stuff.
So the primitive forms that they're, so all of the stuff they made up that we were just talking about has been shown to be frauds. You're
Hmm.
saying those are real now?
No, no, I'm saying the real version of those are here, still active, but they're not what you would call a Neanderthal caveman or something like that. But that's what they want you to believe that that's a caveman or whatever it is. But in actual fact, from straight evidence that people have reported these things having these special powers. For that reason, they cannot bring that up because that would have been their perfect missing link. That would have been, oh, see, you see that thing walking around, you see that that's your ancestor, whatever. But if it wasn't for the fact that they have superpowers, then they would easily be able to say that. So give you evidence of yes, there's still primates or whatever they want to call them walking around Earth, and that would have given the perfect excuse. To say, see, that's why you still see monkeys. That's why you still see apes because you see they're still, we're still evolving. But no, they can't do that because of that one thing in there that shows that these things are not what you would call animals.
Hmm.
So that throws a whole monkey wrench and excuse the pun into their whole equation because what they want to show you that does fit those characteristics physically, unfortunately, is not what they're saying it is, and there's proof of that. That's crazy.
Wow. You know, the title of this is How Dangerous is Belief? And I guess that's based on a type of belief. A. Patterson, good to see you. He says, great song by the band Rush, Free Will. If you pay attention, the lyrics, it's very atheist. In fact, people call the song the atheist anthem. Really? Yeah, I remember that song, Free Will. I remember that song by Rush. I didn't know. I thought, so I guess they're not religious. I guess they're atheistic. Canadian band, right? They had some pretty good jams. Tom Sawyer, I think, was like one of their top jams. But Xanadu and some of these other songs. Wow, I never thought of it. I never really listened too deep to the lyrics of Free Will. But wow, so it's an atheist anthem that some people call it, and that is basically the evolution, the lie of evolution. It would go right in along with that, thinking that hey, that he's the top guy, first guy over here, saying hey, everybody else is behind him. If you're shorter, evolution is saying you're less evolved without saying it really. In some of these models, in other models, if you're tall, it'll just say, look, he's not even human. They can't even, and how do they treat people of color? Like they're not human in many countries. I mean, you see it, it is what it is. I'm just pointing out the obvious, And then, oh, modern man on this side. Wow. So Africans didn't know how to build fires, right? I mean, these museums are basically, these are blackface museums. They love making these fake models of people to make them look extremely primitive, as if they never did anything in history. And any type of civilization, ancient civilization that could have been advanced, they don't let the evidence surface. And that's the problem with the belief in evolution. The danger of belief, basically. Belief is extremely dangerous. What we spoke about on the other show, that's evolutionists try to twist and say that it's religion that has caused the most deaths in history, where good people are convinced to do bad things. It's what is religion based on? Belief. So it's not religion. It is a belief that has caused people to do that. But evolutionists want to act like they know how everything started, the universe, how life started. When we see that, if we analyze it, we see that it's based on lies, like Prost, who lied about the skeletons. And it took 30 years throughout his career. He lied about this stuff. Mr. X, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you, MD. Good to see you, Scrat. Just gonna sit back, listen,
Yeah.
and see what we can come to here.
Yeah, I mean, I put it forth. I said these blatantly racist models in museums. I mean, these are horrible.
They're right in your face. It's saying the darker skinned person is of lower order and the white skinned person is of the ascended higher value. That's clearly what it's saying right there.
Clearly.
There's nothing scientific about it. It's just like you said, it's pure racism and fantasy, because none of that ever happened.
Exactly.
That belongs in a comic book is where it belongs,
Yeah, it really does, man. A. Patterson says Rush's Free Will, written by O's Neil Peart, the drummer, is a pro-individualism secular anthem emphasizing that each person is responsible for creating their own destiny through free choice. And it's like, if it's great that if somebody embraces the power they have, but if he's an evolutionist, we already see what the agenda is. The song rejects fatalism and religious determination, urges listeners to make their own choices rather than trusting in a celestial voice or fate.
That's a contradiction, isn't it, MD? Isn't that a contradiction? An evolutionist saying to use your free will, because it's just chemicals in our brain that are structured a certain way. We were just born the way we are. We had no choice in it. It's just the way our brain is wired through an evolutionary process. We didn't make any choices.
Oh, wow. I just looked it up, man. I said, are the members from the band Rush atheists? And it says, yes, the members of Rush have generally identified as non-religious or atheists through their careers. Geddy Lee described himself as a Jewish atheist, while lyricist Neil Peart, and I think he was the drummer, was renowned for a free thinker whose lyrics often featured skeptical, secular, humanistic themes. The guitarist Alex Lifeson was also known to not be religious. But I mean, not being religious and being an atheist could be two different things. But I could see Geddy Lee. he stated that he's a Jewish atheist. Okay, so and that's a contradiction right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when an atheist or an evolutionist calls a religious person a creationist. Meanwhile, they're saying that they think the universe was created by chance. So they think, it was created by chance. So it's like, wait, so they're a creationist as well. They just think it was created differently. So when Geddy Lee says he's a Jewish atheist, the only way he could be considered Jewish is through a religious faith. So how could he say, so he has a cognitive dissonance in his mind, saying that, okay, he can't be that if he actually believes in atheism, because atheism would tell him that religion is not true. So therefore he couldn't be Jewish. But of course, he's confused to say Jewish atheism, that's an oxymoron. It's like a person who's an evolutionist saying they're not a creationist. When you look and you say, well, wait a minute, you think the universe and life and everything was created by a big bang, right? Okay, so created, the word. This is the insanity that we talked about on the other stream. He probably wanted to claim the Jewish part to keep his record contract. Holy smokes. It's really, man, when I think of the insanity that people will have to say that those two words, like I've never, and I could see you might have a point there, A. Patterson, because I never heard anybody say they're a Christian atheist or a Muslim atheist. They're just an atheist. Well, when it comes to that question, it's like, wow, why would he say? It's like, oh, so do you get a benefit from that more than if somebody was, saying that they're just an atheist? It says a lot. It really does, and when you read in between the lines, I mean, and that's why I put the picture on both sides with religion too. It's either space Jesus or the ape. It's one or the other. It's either you're going to be racist on one side or racist on the other side. The dangers of belief. That's the problem with it. And this is not to say that people of color cannot be racist, because we see that every day. We clearly see that when people try to act holier than thou. No, everybody can be ignorant. The laws of stupidity, everybody's subjected to that. Ignorant has no prejudice. Scribe, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, the artificial stuff they create, all the stuff's trying to say, if this thing turned into that, to, I guess, minimize the understanding of what all this stuff is and make it conform into some progressional thing. And if you're closer to that, then you're deemed, subhuman or whatever it is. But yeah, so like I was saying earlier about these things are still amongst us, but since they don't fit the criteria of an actual animal or human, it can't exist, because now we have to create our own version of that and claim that they lived way back when and have basically no evidence of it. But to say it happened long enough ago to where we can carbon date and all this other fake analysis they'll do to claim that thing was alive and doing whatever it was doing. But yet again, it's funny because the stuff that you have in front of your face in this current reality totally defies that understanding, and there is evidence of that. And I think we should kind of look more at that stuff that does. It's not an official thing, but it's in every single country of the world and exists in different ways. And there's the white version, black version, all in between version, fat, short, tall version, everything under the sun. But unfortunately, you cannot talk about those things because they possess certain abilities that aren't considered real. So it makes me scratch my head and wonder, what else are they not telling us? What other beings are there out there that they want us to think are, cavemen or whatever, but there's something else, that's coming out of straight Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, that gives it that mystical thing. It's like they're telling you the truth of mysticality, but at the same time saying, no, it's a fictional story based off fictional stuff. And then when you look at all these different components, the orcs, the humans, the dwarves, all these different things, the fae, all these, and you do research on those things, you realize they have longer lore than we do ourselves. coming from other stories that predate anything human. And it's like, how is that even possible if that's supposed to be some fantasy? So it's like we really haven't we really have not looked in our own true backyard to say, let's compare all the things they're talking about that they claim is untrue. Just like the dinosaur thing, they say it's a David Chill where he found that the reason he went after it originally because he said he saw some in National Geographic, but something they claim that looked like a brontosaur and it's been seen multiple times. Scientists have gone down there tracking this thing down, trying to find it. They can't find it. So this guy's like, oh man, I'm gonna go down, almost gets himself killed. Luckily, he finds that tribe, thank God, and then they're able to tell him, well, if you want to see that, you got to go through these areas that very few humans can even trek through, even if you have tech and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that these things exist today, and they're trying to say, "Oh no, that thing existed 50 million years. That thing used to be a T-Rex. Now it's a chicken. That thing over there." I mean, the ridiculousness is so beyond ridiculous that it defies logic and everything else. But yet, that's what we're given as truth. But the thing is, I'm saying we're not looking enough at our current background situation to understand why they're using these things as evolution, all these things that we could easily say, "Look, here's an example," but they say, "Oh, that's big, well, that's fake. That doesn't count." So anything that's real evidence, that doesn't count, right? So that's the issue. You can have all this evidence today that this thing's still here. Therefore, that what you're telling me is false. It's a complete lie. They're not going to accept that because it's not part of the narrative. So that means there's tons of stuff that exists that we cannot bring into that equation because they're going to consider that pseudoscience. They're going to consider that conspiracy theory. So it's almost like we're trying to challenge truth, and then they're the ones creating the original conspiracy theory. And you can't mess with their conspiracy theory because it's so confounded and impacted with lies that the lie and lie and lie gets even more and more ridiculous. To when you get to the truth sounds even more ridiculous because you've been so used to believe you came from a chimp and all these other things. So I think it's just one big mind, what do you call it? Mind control. Mind control is the best way to put it. And they will throw in racism and everything else in there to keep you segregated, to keep you separate, divided, and force you into a group to go against another group. Next thing you know, now you have a clan, a tribe, a country that you have to protect at all costs and take people out that you don't even know. So the whole entire gamut, the whole entire thing from your existence to what you should be doing is all filled with just nothing but lies that do exist, but they're refactoring and reforming them in different positions to say that no, this is what happened over here. So it sounds like a group that's trying to recreate reality to conform to their version of what they think reality is and push that upon the entire world. But then when we find artifacts, we go back and look and see what's here right now. That does not add up to anything what they're saying. And yes, there's plenty of evidence of that, but you'd have to get out of the whole thing of what you consider real based on what they think is real. That's the problem. That's why you can't even say Bigfoot's real because they deem it not real, even though every country of the world has a version of this in their that exists in their forest or whatever. This is how powerful this entity or these people are to make you believe that something that right now, spirits, demons, whatever, they don't exist, even though there's tons and tons of evidence of these things. That's how powerful these people are, that they'll just make stuff up and create their own reality, and then you have to now believe it, or you're going to be condemned to ridicule for the rest of your life, and you're not going to get a job, you're not going to get their money, and you're condemned, you're an outsider, you're exiled from society. And that's basically what I feel like. That's what that's basically, like the more I try to search for truth, the more I get exiled. And it's just crazy. It's counterintuitive. It's counterproductive. It almost seems like this world or this reality wants you not to, not like, look, we know you want the truth, but just don't go there. Just go over here. Know what it feels like to be a slave. Know what it feels like to be totally lied to, totally, just completely berated. We want you to feel that. We don't want you to learn the truth. So what is it that's so hell-bent on forcing us to follow these ridiculous, nonsensical life choices and paths that they want to create for us? So, if there is anything good out there, you would think, on the contrary, if you're doing good things, you should be getting, better results. You should be blessed. You should be whatever. And it seems it's the opposite, the other way around. The more good you try to do, the more truth you try to come out with, the harder it is for you. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, and anytime you search for the truth, any remember, it's based on lies. I think Alexis had asked earlier that, we see that everything is basically a lie. Oh, I missed this one. Can you explain dinosaurs, MD? Did they exist, or are they props to just push evolution? Some of them are definitely props to push it, but the fossils, when you look into it, they seem to possibly have existed a lot more recent, like that one T-Rex fossil that fell off the flatbed and they realized it had soft tissue in it. So yeah, it definitely yeah, definitely have that. Look into what they're finding in Africa by way of LIDAR. I'm going to look into that now. Wow. Yeah, they always believe they're on the right side of history. So that's why if you search for truth, you're going to be looked at as the enemy. I mean, the fact that we can bring up all this evidence showing the frauds of evolution and nobody cares, that they'll literally respond with, oh, there's so much scientific evidence. Like you said, if it's Bigfoot, if it's what would be considered a werewolf or something, that can't exist because it throws a wrench in the evolutionary model. So any type of ancient civilization, it's just, yeah, it's really it's
Can I ask you a question, MD? Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
What's more dangerous? Now, we talked about race. We kind of got into it a little bit, a couple streams ago. What's more dangerous? What's more effective? The guys who are outwardly racist and tell you what they think of you, basically, if they don't like you, they let you know right to your face, or as we see in the model of evolution, which seeps into our educational system, and which one would have a greater effect on society as a whole? Would it be the ones that are in your face, or the ones that go, sort of behind the scenes, behind the back door, so to say, that sneaks it in? What do you think is more detrimental to a society as a whole?
Detrimental, I would say, is evolution, the lie of evolution,
the hidden racism.
Yeah, because it's hidden racism. I mean, if somebody can look at that, I mean, it's hidden, but it's also blatant. When you look at the models, imagine kids looking at the models, and one kid telling the other kid, "Look, you're closer to that ape than I am." Now, so it can fuel that, but I think just blatant racism, people eventually start to realize how stupid it is, how ignorant it is, and they start to realize, like, yeah, why this person is behaving, especially in the 1800s. You had a lot of black people that were living according to the Christian doctrine much more strictly than most of the racist whites that followed Christianity. And now, so this, when my theory is why Darwin, whoever was behind the scenes helping him write the origin of species, the preservation of the favored races. I mean, how much more blatant can you get? And you have black people and white people defending that, saying, oh, he talked about plants and animals, he didn't mean humans. And I'm like, okay, once again, ignorance has no prejudice. You can't have a conversation with that type of ignorance. So at the end of the book, he talks about that. But a lot of these people, like especially on the Gnosis channel and stuff, they don't even know that they're blatant racist. They support this, and some of them do know, but they go hand in hand. When you think, it's not a coincidence that the origin of species, the preservation of the favored races, was published right around the time of the Civil War. The fact that this book was published, the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life, it has to be a violent thing. The Big Bang, violence, the struggle for life, fighting and killing each other. The Crunch, always struggling and killing each other. Super Sidewinder, what's up, bro? Yeah, it really, when you look at that, the Civil War was, you have the origin of species, the Civil War, and what happened within a few months after the Civil War. So they're like, all right, slavery's ended because, like, I think it was Mehdi, someone in the chat said, one of the things with Lincoln was also England didn't want to deal with any country that didn't have slavery abolished. So, okay, they do that, sacrifice, I think, roughly 1 million people. And then what comes out a few months after the Civil War? Anybody can look this up. Within months after the Civil War ended, the Ku Klux Klan was founded that same year. So it's sort of like saying, all right, these people are free, but, basically a terrorist organization. And then just massive Jim Crow sharecropping to keep people enslaved, and the origin of species, saying, look, these aren't people. These people are closer to apes. Darwin was basically in The Descent of Man calling them savage races, basically just openly. And I notice a lot of people don't talk about The Descent of Man, where he openly said that in a time in the future, less than a century, not more than a century, basically, he said, there will be no intermediaries. Like we have the Negro, the Australian Aborigine, and the gorilla. He's saying that it would be the more civilized man, nothing in between, and just the baboon. So he was calling, I mean, they did it in a way that when you read in between the lines, it is so blatantly racist, hateful, genocidal. It's maniacal type of stuff. I mean, this is just, it's a genocidal maniac. And that's where do we see that mindset? We see it in Klan members. We see openly genocide. I don't know who else, what other group can openly say they're going to exterminate, they want to exterminate people, except for hateful white racist. The black racist, the Hebrew Israelite, they'll say, oh, well, God's going to do it. This is why I say the Klan is in the White House. What did Trump just recently say? He talked about destroying an entire civilization openly. That's exactly what the Klan is saying. That's why I say they are alive and well. They are alive and well, man. For somebody to say that, to openly say, only white racist groups can get away with saying that. I have not heard other groups say that openly and get press too. Because to get press is like an ad.
Doesn't the Quran say,
that Iran said it wants to what?
The Quran.
The Quran talks about non-believers.
Killing who?
Non-believers.
Right, the infidels, non-believers.
Okay, so if somebody converts now. If somebody converts, they're not a non-believer anymore. You can't turn your skin from black to white. There's no conversion there. And I'm not agreeing.
Who wants to be white?
Huh?
They want. It's like who wants to? It's like they made it that way.
No, it's not. There's a lot of people. If people did not want to lighten their skin, Fair and Lovely wouldn't be a multi-million-dollar company. Bleaching skin wouldn't be a multi-million-dollar company. They wouldn't have people that are paying to get laser surgery to their eyes, implants, even more dangerous, to lighten the color. Remember what I was writing years ago, The Pursuit of Whiteness. It's never, you're never white enough. You got beautiful looking white girls with black hair that dye their hair blonde in the pursuit of whiteness.
But MD, what would you think of people who call non-Semitic people goyim, which are basically nothing but cattle, nothing but animals? Because that does exist. I mean, we can't deny that.
Yeah, and those people that do that, what color are the majority of those people?
Right, but I just think it goes a little deeper because
right. No,
but they would also look at other people who have a similar color.
What's the color of them? It's the same thing. They're white. They're white-skinned. So only white people, and I'm not saying this in a hateful way. I'm saying this in a scientific analyzation. Only somebody with pale skin, with less melanin, is allowed to get away with saying that about somebody else. Now, of course, there are black Jews. There are Arab Jews. You can look into Israel. I don't know if the statistic is right. Anybody can look it up. I think Arab Jews make less than what would be considered another type of Jew. I guess I'm not sure. You have to look it up. I remember seeing that. But again, what did the Egyptian president say? Like, and this is nothing against people, because you have good Jewish people that don't agree with Zionism. They protest that. You got people burning their draft cards. So it's just like you have good white people that have went to jail for helping black people during Jim Crow, that have died. People that died, preachers died. And those preachers were killed by who? By a hateful belief. That's why the name of the stream is The Danger of Belief. How dangerous is belief? The belief is so dangerous, it caused racist white people to kill other white people that were helping blacks. So not only are what you would say, some people calling people goyim and other people, just calling people racial slurs because they're darker skinned, they will also kill people that look like themselves because of that belief system. So we're seeing that belief, how dangerous belief is. If you can get somebody to believe something, like Voltaire said in a loose translation, if you can get somebody to believe, those in law who can get people to believe absurdities, something absurd, you can get them to commit atrocities. So if you can get them to believe something as absurd as you are less than the other person, right? Like you said, the goyim or the person who's less evolved, because we see that too. That's just another way of putting it. Now you can get them to commit an atrocity. And what is the atrocity based on? It's not based on religion, like the evolutionists would try to put it. It's based on belief. It's based on belief. Now, belief can be used in a religious context to get them to believe in the religion, to get them. So like the religion is an intermediary to say, look, if we can't get them to believe in this religion, we'll get them to believe in this fake scientific theory that these other people are less. And that we can starve them, which is what happened to the Irish.
What's going on today too, I might add.
Going on today. I mean, horrible. It's horrible what's going on today. I don't speak too much on it because you already know YouTube.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I know. We can speak around it, but not on it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a guy called Professor Jiang. He talked about it. He said it seems to be a child sacrifice type of ritual thing going on because of the people being, younger and, infants and stuff like that. Coordinated area. Yeah, so it's like he has a deep view. I think there was a interview with Piers Morgan's and him, and he went off on him. And Brian Nichols says, "Why are so many whites trying to look black?" I don't know.
There you go.
I want to know who. Maybe my co-host Scribe, because he's always quoting Tupac or whatever. And
man,
my answer would be,
you've seen it.
Look, my answer would be rap music. That's what it would be. There is no advantage in today's society for being black. When you see that the president or the dictator, as he's better well known as, just puts up a golden statue of himself, if that ain't the golden calf, and you got people who support that are praying to it. Anybody can look at these interviews that are saying this guy is closer to God and all that. And I was like, what the heck is going on? That's the great white hope. Slowly but surely getting rid of anybody of color in high positions on the Republican side. And this is happening. You can look up the stuff that's happening. This is basically what would be the Klan. I mean, somebody who can openly say the end of a civilization of brown people. And what did Iran do? What did they do beside existing? Just the way the Native Americans existed. They didn't run quick enough. That was their crime. They said that out of all the promises that were told to them by the invaders, they only kept one. They promised to take their land. And that's what they've done. But nobody cares about that. Nobody cares, especially not your average ignorant American.
No.
It definitely doesn't care about that, man. And look at Africa. I mean, they try to say, oh, they build railroads. Look at South Africa. The amount of stuff that was stripped out of South Africa, diamonds and emeralds, trains built, which ignorant people will say, well, look, they built trains, they made roads. Yeah, roads leading from the mine straight to the port. So they can strip mine it and then extract it, take the train, pile it on the trains, and bring it to the port, put it on the ships, and have it leave the country. And that's, anybody can look this up. Anybody can look this up. And ignorance, because you have a very, and think about it, the ignorance, how would you get people to starve Irish people? Who was it? Charles Kingsley, that wrote his wife, calling them white chimpanzees.
Yeah.
And he said that it wouldn't hurt him as much if their skin was black, but it was white like his. And he was a staunch supporter of evolution, and he was an Anglican priest.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that supported evolution at first was not the scientist, it was the racist priest. It went into, I mean, you have, who was it that went to the Congo, and they said that in their holy book that those people were meant to serve them. What does it say in Romans? Obey your earthly masters or something like that.
Mm.
I mean, this is horrible. One lady put it best. She said, this is a white power manual. This is not a religious book. That's what evolution is too. It's another version of a white power manual. And people just don't see it. And maybe
that's what makes it dangerous. Don't you agree, MD? That's what makes it dangerous.
Yeah.
They don't see it. Mm-hmm. They believe it. And it's like,
again, you hit it on the button. Believe it. Belief. That's why I named the stream. How dangerous is belief? And Brian Nichols, and your name is after a murderer. Blaxican and those guys already exposed that. But I'm going to let you say your piece, bro, because I'm the fair one. I'm the one who's fair, and maybe this can educate you the way it educated MAGA Mike. I don't know if he's going to be done with Trump, but I remember him saying that he was into the thing saying white Christians built everything. Really? Hey, keep believing that. Trump endorsed the Indian guy in Ohio. Do you know what he did to that guy afterwards when he was supposed to be in Trump's cabinet? After that guy said, okay, he's going to step down. He's not going to run against him. What'd they do to him? You looked that up, Brian? They got rid of him. They got rid of him. And Coulter said it in the open. She goes, she wouldn't vote for him just because he's Indian. Now, to me, he got his wake-up call because he tried to play Steven from the Django movie. He was shucking and jiving. If you're a man of color, of any color that isn't white, you better be running on a Democratic ticket. You're never going to get in there as a Republican. The Republicans, when you look deep down in it, you're looking at basically the Klan. And we also see that on some of the Democratic sides.
Robert Byrd. Can't forget him.
Exactly. We see it on both sides. This is why I say it's a one-party system disguised as a two-party system. And good people who are white, they know this. And I can imagine how afraid they feel because they know people have been lynched. If you look back in history, look at the civil rights activists that were white. What happened to them? Mm-hmm. And they weren't getting killed by black people. And why were they getting killed? Not because they were white. They were getting killed because of a belief, showing us how dangerous belief was. When Stalin was going nuts, when he went straight postal, he was believing in evolution. When the kids walked into Columbine, one of them had a shirt that said natural selection.
Wow.
And they try to say evolution is, atheists don't commit crimes, right? They might be the people that commit the most crimes. They might be the people that commit the most crimes. For somebody, you have, like, there was a thing called Schwarzerpiet in the Netherlands, in Holland, where they, the kids with Santa Claus would get soot on their face, and they would represent Schwarzerpiet during the Christmas festivals, which turned into all-out blackface, just a mockery. And Black people were very offended. And they have interviews on YouTube of people from many years ago where you have good people who are white that are saying, I never knew Schwarzerpiet was offensive. And I honestly believe some of them in their interviews to say, wow, you were that unaware as a kid because you never came close to anybody of color. You never had to. That's the privilege. That's the privilege that some people have. I remember as a kid, people moving out of the ghetto and openly saying, like even in the ghetto, that they want to just get away from, they would call people the N-word and stuff. They wouldn't want any. I remember a girl that I dated. She was Italian. She goes, you cannot drop me off at my house. She goes, my brothers will come outside and they will chase you. They will want to kill you. She literally was letting me know that. And they had money. She lived on Long Island. She had a horse. I remember one lady at this crystal shop when I was meeting her there. I told her, I said, look, let's meet at the crystal shop. We would meet at different places. And the lady was, she was not prejudiced. She was just like, she was like, look, this girl, she comes from money. She has a horse. And, I was like, Jen, great, whatever, and, I saw, it was like, wow, all of that stuff to just date this chick, and it was just, when I look at that, I was like, holy smokes. I think back at that, and that was like 20 years ago. It just, it had to, seep into her somehow eventually. I mean, kind of like the movie Malcolm X when he was running around with the blonde chick, and then she eventually settled down and married some white guy later on after I think he went away or something like that. It just, this is what
I say this is the conversation we had before. Sorry to cut you off with these, about what I'm seeing today and at some point in the past. Or do you agree? Let's just lay this out first. You agree that there's still tribes that live the way they've lived today, as they have for who knows how long these guys have been around, who have these ancient artifacts or whatever it is. They have a completely different view of life, who don't see anything you can buy land on. It's ridiculousness, right? So currently today, there are these tribes that still exist, right? We can agree on that.
Yeah, there's, well, I don't know how long they've
what's
lived like
been
that.
left over allowed to survive, basically from who hasn't been genocided yet. You still agree there's still little pockets of these tribes still today?
Oh yeah,
right?
there's definitely pockets of those tribes.
And they continue to do their thing, right?
Well, I'm not sure if they're living exactly how they lived however long, because they have some,
Well,
even if they
they're not
don't have,
driving Teslas, they're not using
they're
Wi-Fi.
not, but they have a machete. And if they have a machete that they didn't find the ore, the iron ore, and melt it and make the steel, then they're not living the way they lived 10,000 years ago.
Okay, let's say the ones that don't use machetes, the ones who use the original tools they've been using for thousands of years, haven't changed.
I don't know if any of those exist. I mean, I would think they exist.
I know there's a few in Panama that exist because
yeah. I mean, I don't think the ones in Panama are without a machete.
No, there's different ones that, yes, they've inherited some of that, but there's other ones that refuse to adopt anything, that's not their original thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, I would think that, there are some.
Okay, so we assume that, and then in the past, of course, before the genocide and all that stuff, this Western world, at least as we know, from top to bottom, Canada to Argentina, you want to call it that, had these beings, right?
Yeah, now before they lived in those tribes, the evidence seems to point that they came from an ancient civilization that had technology that was destroyed.
Okay, we don't know. I'm not going to make that assumption yet.
Yeah, we're not making
I'm saying, when did this thing come in Avatar style and completely bring this whole new ideology that includes Darwinism, all these things, and they happen to choose, I guess, the white race to be the master race or whatever, or portray that or whatever. At one point in time,
around the 1600s.
Okay, so very recently, the
Manifest,
idea, I
no,
guess, of
no.
an
The
entire
first
land
time, the most recent time it came in was Manifest Destiny.
was what?
Manifest Destiny, basically. That was
Okay,
from
okay.
sea to shining sea, right? And this is what I was saying with Mr. X when he mentioned Goyim and stuff. Where else do we hear that from the sea to the sea type of thing? So remember, it was
Okay, but let's
thieves.
not get. Yeah, I'm still trying to explain
Look
real
at the
quick.
Spanish, right? The Spanish are from Europe or from Western Asia, more accurately. Just like you had certain whites killing other whites over a belief and also greed and thievery, what did you have with the Americans doing to the Mexicans? You can look at the difference in math.
I'm trying to explain that there's something that came in that
Mhm.
changed man's ideology of how to view the world, and now they think they can buy land, they can do all this ridiculous stuff that doesn't even make sense. And you still have these other people that respect the world and understand it from the old age or whatever you want to call it. And yes, before there could have been super high tech ancient civilizations. I'm just saying, we have evidence of these people who've been living that way for that long, who choose not to indulge in any tech, even though
Well,
it
they've
could
been
be an
living,
easier way.
and this is where the dating system comes in. They've been living that way for a while. Let's just say 3,000, 4,000 years. Now, we're not sure what was happening before that. And a lot of the dating stuff that they have is just not accurate. So we know, according to something like, when you look at the mines in Wisconsin, Wisconsin contains some of the most pure copper mines on the planet. And they're wondering if who was mining this copper. And they're saying that it could have been during the Crusades that people were making it across the Atlantic to mine this copper and bring it back. So anybody can look into this, and there's some theories on that. So copper was being mined in North America about 2,000 years ago, maybe more. So we're seeing that there was a contact, Leif von Erikson, in around the year 800, so almost 700 years before Columbus. This copper mine thing, 1,000 years more, 2,000 years. So when we look into these things, these are the things that they don't want to add into history. Like you were saying, these people also talked about Sasquatch, the Bigfoot. They don't want to add, oh, that's just a myth. These are primitive people. They make stuff up. And the evolutionists love doing this. They love doing this to religious people too. Oh, everything in the book is made up. Well, I can understand why they would look at it as lies when somebody says, oh, there's a flood. It proves Noah's flood. No, it doesn't. It proves that there was a flood, not exactly this flood. It could even be a worldwide flood. You can't just attribute that to a religious book now. You keep it scientific. There was a worldwide flood. But how worldwide is that? Now, many cultures have that about a worldwide flood, or a great flood, in other words. But there were many other floods that weren't totally destructive like that. So there's a lot of history. When we look at it, we start to say, wait a second, there's something behind the scenes. I had mentioned on the other stream, if you think that it goes from microbes to ants to mice to cat, dogs, and wolves and bears and elephants and humans, and you think it stops at humans, that's only where your thinking stops. That's the limitation that you put on your own mind. If you realize that there's other things, there could be interdimensional beings, there could be something that goes more than humans, that it seemingly gives us technology to fight one another. That makes sense. That makes sense. So now it goes into religious books, not just being total fiction, where there are parts of it that seem to be very fictionalized, right? But when you look at some of this, you start to say, man, this seems more like documentation, especially when we did the stream showing that an ancient lore, garden, the word garden was synonymous with laboratory. So it's like, holy smoke. So now when somebody talks about the Garden of Eden it really does have the connotation of being the laboratory of Eden, or the synonym, have a synonymous thing like that. And when you look at genetics and all of these other things, you start to be like, yeah, humans were definitely not coming from apes by some.
Okay, so real quick, I just did a thing on the asking it. Okay, so Great Britain, for example, they're trying to say, I was like, okay, who were who were the originals there? They're saying in the last ice age, about 10,000 years ago, there were dark-skinned hunter-gatherers who occupied this area. So again, how is that even possible if we're going to be basically like the thing you were saying with the sun and everything else?
That doesn't seem
So
to be.
it almost seems like the white race, I guess, was
No. Look into that. It doesn't seem to be true. They tried to say it was Cheddar Man, and that was debunked as a lie.
Okay, so who were the indigenous tribes 10,000 years ago in Britain?
Look up Cheddar Man, and you'll see another black face model of a dark skin sculpture or whatever created with blue eyes, and they laughed it out of existence. The British weren't having
I'm saying, how can they agree with that? So then, where did white people come from?
No. See, this is what I call the channel the Architects of Humanity. Good to see you, Asvarun. The Architects of Humanity seemed, like I said, when people date genetics back to white people or people with less melanin, because people who are considered incorrectly white have melanin to certain extents. The ones that don't are albinos. And where do we find albinos? In every type of people. So if they were just limited to white people, albinos, then we'd have to look at that and say, okay, how do we adjust a theory to that? That's the scientific method to change.
What was the eye color of Cheddar Man? What was the eye color?
Well, they try to say it was blue, but it's been debunked. How do you tell the eye color of a skull? There is no way. I mean, even if you take DNA and all, you can't even have a picture of somebody, right? That is that you know what they look like they were alive. And then you take the skull and ask the artist, can you recreate what they look like? They can't do that. But yet they lie and they say, well, this is what King Tut looked like. This is what this Neanderthal looked like. It's all lies. Because you try to repeat it and you say, wait a minute, these guys lied. The evolutionary lie says that the people in Great Britain were dark-skinned. Now, if they were dark-skinned, right, and this is just for sake of argument, and they turned lighter to become the white Britons that you see today, what does that say? That the melanin.
No. I'm assuming these guys came in at some point. I'm not saying they're the same. I never said that they went
okay. Okay. So let's just say
all right. From somewhere.
All right. Let's just say your theory.
The whitest place on the planet. What was their history? Was there black people there before, or was these guys always been there? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay. We don't know. You see,
it appears to me that this thing came in pretty recently with a completely different mindset.
The people without melanin. Yeah, the people that don't have as much melanin seem to have been released onto the planet's surface more recently than everybody else. Now, let's just say that the people from that area, Norway and all of that there was an explosion of people that were released, and they traveled south and east and also west across the Atlantic. So now you have people that are populated in the Americas that are light-skinned. And over, we don't know how long, thousands, tens of thousands of years. You have the people that go south into Africa, the people that go east into China. They start adapting to the environment. The solar radiation starts to trigger the formation of melanin, which we do see this happening genetically. We see it clearly happening genetically with anybody that has a little bit of olive colored skin, like the Mediterranean. They will get darker and then they'll get pale to where you wouldn't even think they were tan. So they have what I call transitional melanin. Then you got people that keep the olive color. and they can get darker, but they'll never get lighter to where they look kind of pale. They'll always maintain a slight olive color. Then you have people that will be darker that stay dark. And if they stay so dark that you can't tell if they get darker, that's what I call fixed melanin. So you have combustible melanin, which is the melanin, pheomelanin, that it reacts with the sun to cause sunburn. It's combustible, but it's still melanin. It also causes the redness of the hair, the orange color, the green eyes.
What about
Melanin.
Asian people, like the structures they have?
Yeah, now Asian people, if you look, some of them are very, very light-skinned, pale. Some of them have a little bit of a yellowish hue, and some of them start to get a little tan, like your Thailand, your Indonesian type Asian people, Philippines, Southeast Asian. So we see the adaptation. Now the hair also, according to science, we see that radiation can make straight hair turn curly and darken. Sure. So this is proven. Anybody can look this up. This is part of my theory with the architects of humanity.
They seem to have some features that don't align with the environment.
Yes,
like compared to European.
The eyes of Asians, of East Asians, Orientals, and Scribe and I had talked about this. Is it possible that it seems that humanity was birthed from a type of birthing tanks? So whether these tanks, whether we were grown in maybe under the surface in a lab, a garden, a lab, Eden, or whatever, just a lab, suboceanic as well. If you're in something that's shielded from the sun, a shielded environment, you don't need melanin. And when we look at how we navigate nature, yeah, we can survive in hunter-gatherer mode, but that seems to be the default mechanism. Now, the mystery, these are mysteries. The mystery of the eye, the Oriental eye, could be that if something was created in a water environment, maybe that is more of the original eye. Maybe the first humans that were non-melanated had more of an Asian template. And as that human adapts to the environment, maybe the eye starts to get more to where we see the other cultures, Indian, Western Asian, which would be European, even Africans have that open eye structure. But there are some Africans that have that type of Oriental eye. So again,
I'm not denying the effects of environment on the human skin and so forth, but I think there's also some creative force behind this also.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely definitely. The Scribe and I was saying there could even be templates. So the Asian template could actually be a type of template that was created, and as it adapted, it kept those features. Like we see Thailand, the Southeast Asians still have the features, but their skin color gets a little more yellow, a little more brown, a little more tan, right?
It's like in Mexico, where you have a lot more of the Indian,
yes, now you could
South American Indian.
Could be another template that adapted and turned, the melanin starts to activate. So now they don't have the Asian eye as much. And then you have another template. So each template could have been created to look like the person we see with melanin without melanin. And what proof do I have scientifically to show that? That could be a type of theoretical link, is the albino that pops up in every culture. So you have the Indians, the Chinese, the Orientals, the Africans, they all have albino templates. The Europeans or Western Asians, we see albino templates. The least amount of melanin to survive on the planet without getting melanoma right away is blonde hair and blue eyes. So as we look at this, we add in a little bit of melanin to the albino with the reddish or pinkish eyes, because it's reflecting the light back from the retina. That's why it gives that pinkish hue, the meat color, the inner meat. You add a little bit of melanin, and what it does is it absorbs the the red light and reflects back the blue, and that's what gives the appearance of blue. When you add pheomelanin to that, it will turn green. But if you add a little more collagen to the blue eye, you'll get a scattering effect that reflects as gray. So the blue and the gray in the atmosphere is known as the Rayleigh-Tyndall effect. The Rayleigh effect is why you see the sky is blue in the daytime, but it's clear at night. The Tyndall effect is why clouds appear to be a bit grayish sometimes. And this is why the light reflected back from blue and gray eyes, they can even change color. I knew a girl, her eye could change from blue to gray to green and then back to blue, depending on her mood too. It was very odd. So,
Yeah.
and I'm doing this from science and then speculation. And this is where science actually should be practiced in this way instead of just the belief of evolution. They say, oh, well, evolution did it. I can stop thinking. And then shame people that think in this direction. Oh, what are you saying? It's aliens or it's Bigfoot or something. And it's like, that's when you can't really talk to this person because they're ignorant. And that ignorance, as we know, is contagious. Ignorance and stupidity, like Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, is more sociological than psychological. So when you get around a group, if you get around a group of enough stupid people, it'll start to influence you if you don't have an extremely strong mind to shield yourself from it. We see this with ball chasers in any type of ball chasing arena. We see it with musical concerts. We see you see some videos where they show with a lot of people where they try to show black people in a negative light, but we see, what is it? It's like a contagious piranha effect. We see it with white crowds as well. We see it with the European football thing. People just going like just animalistic over teams, over which team that they. So it's a contagious effect. It's like a piranha effect. Everybody, 1, 2, 3 people smell blood, everybody goes nuts because stupidity is contagious. Clearly contagious. We see that. See it with schools. We see it with religious institutions, political rallies. And I'm going on scientific observation. Yeah. I didn't know if that answered what Scribe was saying too about the most recent humans on the surface. The ones on the surface that have been here the longest and adapted the most would give a DNA genetic signature as if they were the oldest, but it's not that they were the oldest.
But here's, I just wanted to add a measuring effect to all this because, again, this is a lot of speculation, a lot of things that it's leading to. But my main concern, like this, I had to write all this down because you're touching on a lot of stuff. So we can say indigenous people, as in people, tribes, what do you want to call them, have lived in balance, just like the animals do, right? The animals lived in harmony and balance with the ecosystem to even create life itself. The bees knows when to pollinate. This guy knows when to do this. All these things happen to benefit each other. They're not destroying each other. They're not going off balance, all this crazy stuff, right? So you could say indigenous people originally lived in balance with the human ecosystem, just like animals do. And there's the connection right there. Now, this is why they're saying, no, we're nothing like animals. Why? Because we are destroyers of balance. So this destroyer of balance, I want to call it the apple, whatever, that created the serpent, all that, whatever you want to call it, is a consciousness. And we're thinking, the physical thing, but I'm saying, let's just think about this for a second. Mm-hmm. So indigenous people, right, they are you could say that they live in harmony. They don't dare poison the river. They don't dare destroy acres and acres of land to build something. They don't dare kill off a bunch of animals for riches or whatever it is, like we do. So when did this mindset of destroying the balance came into where now we're building factories, now we can buy land, now we can own land, now we can do all these things that defies common sense itself to say, you can now own this when it's not yours whatsoever. When you're from that, it's complete blasphemy on every level. Destroying the rivers, the poisoning, destroying the imbalancing of large ecosystems of plants and animals that for the sake of these giant new malls or water parks or whatever it is they're trying to build, that goes completely against nature itself, and is blasphemous. Is completely just the most horrendous thing you can think of from a point of view of someone who is in balance with this earth. To literally say that's a parasitic, evil, satanic, whatever you want to call that, whatever you guys are doing over there, and you're going to war with each other. Just think about that. So you're imbalancing the planet, you're destroying the planet first of all, and not only that, you want to even go to war with each other. So when you think about that, it's like we are completely off keel. We were completely a completely different species, I would say. Yeah, we might look human, or we might have limbs, we might walk upright, but I don't see us as anything near, as the same species of animal or human or whatever you want to call us. When you see the imbalance, the imbalance of playing God basically, and treating this earth as if it's our playground, with the utmost disrespect, killing off things, poisoning the air, the waters and everything else. Once you had an actual real intelligence that says, no, we're too smart to poison our own lakes. We know what's going on here. We're not dumb enough to destroy land and build malls just to make this artificial currency you call money. I mean, where did this happen? I'm trying to figure out because there's still evidence of these guys still living today that still have the same beliefs of harmony and true balance, and
But
you have us over here destroying everything.
They all have myths of technology. That they all have a memory of when there was a time where the gods roamed the earth and stuff like that. So
okay, but when did the imbalance happen? Where I'm gonna down, where I once was harmonious with the earth, with the ecosystem, now I'm destroying it for my own benefit, for this thing called money, this thing called power.
I think it happened more than once. I think that it's not just one introduction. Like we see the introduction with Rome. The Romans and the Greeks might have been another introduction, that we see the same introduction of the English might have been before that. The one was Rome, because magically they had lost the origins of their beginnings and had to go to Egypt, because Egypt was the record holders. Now, Egypt seemed to be multicultural, because you do see statues of different looking people. You see reliefs of different types of people. Some of the stuff I showed, you saw black people in a painting and what appeared to be looking like the little alien kazoo from the Flintstones with the two little antennas on the head, in a satchel, and behind him with its hand hovering on the back of his head as if it was controlling his mind. So when we look at this, there's something behind the scenes. I'm not saying that people are evil, but people are influenced by the belief, like how ethics had said, how do you get good people to do bad things? He was still on the thinking it was religion due to his belief in evolution. But then I said, well, if we boil it down, it's belief. It's not religion. Religion is used how? Through the belief in religion, because we'd see it with the evolutionists killing people. Why? Because they believe in evolution. So the belief, that's how dangerous belief is. The belief will have you thinking that you can poison the river a little bit or a lot and don't worry about it, or just reach a total level of insanity.
I'm saying that goes beyond belief. That has to be something to where
it's insanity,
or they modified something in your DNA to make
to
you
not care. To
care.
It's kind of like a person that does stuff that they know would kill them. They use drugs or something like that they know is going to kill them slowly, but they use it anyway. That's like poisoning a river. It's going to kill you slowly, probably so slow that you won't notice it. And then it'll poison the children and the grandchildren. And now there's evidence, there's in a book called The 100-Year Lie, where they talk about, they're starting to see that even if you remove the toxin like DDT, it will still affect kids going down to grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So showing that just the fact that it polluted the genetics of our great-grandfathers, now it polluted our genetics. So even if you remove the pollutant, it's still in the genetics for generations to come. That is horrifying. So not only are they, it makes you wonder, maybe not all humans are human. That's one thing, because it seems like they have mimics within us. And we can't even get to talk about this conversation with evolutionists trying to shame us, thinking that they know everything. This is the ignorance of a person that believes in the religion of evolution. That they
but I now understand why they had to take out the American.
They have anybody.
Native American people.
Yes,
because they would never.
Right too.
Like going against their soul. You're asking someone.
But get this. This is to show you how a lot of the people that came over to the Native Americans weren't bad, because a lot of them started joining the tribes and living like the Native Americans. They don't tell you about that, but you can find little bits here and there. And they had to use other people that looked like them to kill those people off. So we see the way that some of them, they had them interbreed with natives, and that's how they got the land. And then others, they just went straight up against them. But the majority, like if you have people that are coming to invade and they say, wait a second, this is a better way of life. Why are we destroying these people? You had people like that. And like I mentioned, Captain John Brown. He's like, wait, slavery, that's horrible. That's horrible. When he made a friend of a black person that was a slave and saw how intelligent and how articulate and how much fun they had when they were kids. And then the man comes home and starts beating this guy halfway to death. And then he realized, why is he doing that? Oh, he considers him a slave. And his family wasn't pro-slavery. They were abolitionists. So he grew up seeing like, wait a minute, this is wrong. And he went against it. And that was the most dangerous thing. That's what the Ku Klux Klan hates the most. Johnny Lee Clary said, he goes, they don't hate Jewish people or black people the most. They hate white people like them who don't agree and think the same way. And we can see this on tape with many people talking about it too. You know, Klan members talking about it. So it's like,
I mean, when you bring up the Klan to me, I'm seeing like Hulk Hogan, WWF.
No. The Klan. When I bring up the Klan, and this is why I said you have to research.
Like it's fake, right, Mr. X?
No. It's not. It almost seems fake. You have interviews on talk shows from like the 60s and stuff, where somebody would be like, look, why are you wearing bed sheets? You got your bed sheets made into this hat and all of this stuff. And, they try to make fun of them, but these guys are serious. These guys will hang you. So make fun of all you want. They're known for atrocities. Matter of fact, I think the Klan was legally charged with the bombing of a black church that ended I think it was 4 young black girls. And I don't know if it was the Fannie Mae Foundation or something like that sued them, and they had to pay a retribution for that. So the Klan has committed acts of terrorism on record that the government had to charge them with, even though there's a lot of Klan in the government, basically. That's why they're called the Invisible Empire, the Knights of the Invisible Empire. The Circle Clan, that's what it stands for. The Ku Klux Klan, it was the Kukul Klan, the Circle Clan. It's a circle of them. So this is a serious group. It's kind of like they say the greatest deceit that the devil ever did was make people believe it didn't exist. That's like the Klan. Oh, it can't be real. This is this is ridiculous. It's absurd. It's preposterous, but they exist. They exist, and probably more stuff that we don't even know about.
It seems like they stole their group from the Knights Templar, though. There's so many similarities to them and the Knights Templar.
And what did the Templar kill people for? Belief. Mm-hmm. This is why I named the stream the most dangerous thing is belief. How do you get 2 African tribes, the Tutu and the Husis, that both look black to kill each other? Belief. Yeah. One believes the other is different or bad. So belief is the enemy. It's
Mhm.
belief. It's not. A person would be like, wait a minute, why are we fighting each other? Because somebody got them to believe that this other person was their enemy.
Right.
And that's why I named the stream The Danger of Belief, which it's a tough one because the evolutionists, it hits them in their belief because they don't think they have a belief. They think that they know everything, just the way a deity-based religious person might think.
Mhm.
Say, oh, well, we know where we're going. It's like, really? You know where you're going
I
after
mean,
this?
because it's not so much even like you said that no matter how much proof, no matter how much evidence you show, it's not going to matter. It's not really that. It's more you're asking this person to not trust their supposed great American government that they're supposed to be proud of and all this stuff, most powerful
No,
country in the world,
I'm not asking them not to trust. I'm
and
asking
and,
them,
and to relearn what they thought was real is now false. So now they got to relearn something.
I'm asking them one question to
No, I'm
question.
saying that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You're not. I'm saying that's what's happening. For them to accept what you're saying, they have to
No,
now understand their government is not telling the truth. They have to accept that. Accept that. And all of a sudden, now you have to relearn as well because now you've been fed all these lies. So it's a two-tier thing to ask someone to do that. But for us, we did it naturally. There was no asking us to do anything because we saw it. We naturally did it. But I think that's because we're part of that thing. There's very few of us that have the ability or that stayed there with us. We weren't completely cut off from that uh, understanding, caring about people, and saying what's right, what's wrong, and to see stuff like this where people say, "Oh, that's correct." I'm like, no, dude, you don't see that how fake this is. You don't see they're doing,
yeah. I mean,
chemtrail, whatever,
yeah.
and they won't. They still are in the thing, and there's nothing you can say about it. So where's the difference there? You can prove something to someone, but they just cannot let go because now they got to relearn, and most of all, they don't want to believe that their government has been lying to them their whole life.
Well, also when you look at that, when we boil it down, it's asking them to question their belief. And in questioning it, I've heard people say, "Well, evolution is the best explanation, so they're going to believe it." And I'm like, "Listen, if you're in a burning house, are you going to wait and say, well, somebody didn't build another house, and you're going to stay in the burning house and burn to death? No, you're going to run out. You're going to get out of the burning house." So the belief to say that, well, wait a minute, this is more,
Allegiance is greater than belief.
allegiance is created by belief.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, belief is at the bottom of.
I'm saying a person who's already understood the government's lied to them is much more open to now listening to you, even though they don't want to relearn everything. Then now they're much more open. But if you have an allegiance to this group, it doesn't matter what someone says. You're going to die by that, and that's what you're going to stand by. And
A
that's
belief,
just,
yeah. If you believe that these people, also you got to remember, not everybody might be human. You got some people that are so NPC that even if they know the government is wrong, they're going to side with them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an evil streak or what somebody could classify.
I would say family would be the main reason. Like if you don't protect your daughter, your son, your wife, you find out, oh damn, these guys are,
They're
this is
part of
going
the
on.
network.
Tough
They're part of
position,
the
right?
network.
You got people that sell their kids, man. There was just recently, I could bring up some statistics. This lady just got caught recently trying to sell her daughter. And
Well, let's say they're like you, but you didn't find out till later, and you had kids, and you had a wife, and you got caught up in this thing. You realized, damn, this is it's huge. I can probably help expose these people, but they told me if I do that, they're gonna do something to my family.
if you expose them, right? And this is the thing, that ain't doing nothing to them. People think that by exposing them, oh, it's going to do something. No, most, when we look at it, it kind of Kill Bill, man. We are the worm trying to fight the eagle. What can a worm do? Hide. That's the only thing we can do.
No, it means that if enough people get behind that idea,
enough worms. So you're telling me enough worms can defeat an eagle?
Yeah, basically. I agree with that.
And I'm not trying to.
I have to believe that at this point, MD, or else there would be imbalance, and there cannot be
I mean,
imbalance.
Those worms will kill each other. Those worms will kill each other before they fight.
As a matter of fact, let's just say they don't kill each other. You're just not gonna be able to do it. Now, maybe a million rats. Yeah.
So then why again? You see, this is the thing with this. They make this Illuminati thing seem much bigger than what it is. What you're saying here, a worm versus an eagle. You label these guys an eagle. So again, that's your idea of that. I'm saying why.
Okay,
if that's true. If that's true, why? Let me.
What
ask,
do
let
you
me
think
ask.
they are?
If that's
A
true,
snail?
hold on a second, Mr. X, please. If that's true, MD, then why is it, like we had this conversation before, why do they try so hard to keep us down, to keep us stupid, to keep us away from the reality?
Because you're right, because we have
because
power.
the only reason you'd be that afraid of somebody is because you don't want them to later come up and group up and come against you.
So it's not as bad. So in other words, it's not as bad as the worm and the eagle. The eagle could be a chicken or something, but there is something to where you're saying that the worm, enough worms might be able to trigger a lever that puts the gate to lock the chicken back in the coop. And that could be possible, that we have.
They can't even find the lever. They can't even find the lever.
Well, whatever this idea is imbalance. We weren't designed that way. We have evidence that there's humans that do live in pockets of this earth right now that still live the way they used to live, and they are not what do you call it, conned into using the tech and contracts and money and all this other stuff. Doesn't exist, not for them. And that's how that's the balance that was always there. The second you start making money, conquering, blowing stuff up, destroying everything, that's when you've become a completely different entity. Now you're a completely different way of thinking. And for the balanced person that looks insane, that looks unbalanced, that's what they want. That's what they want. So now you have racism. They have all these things that should have never existed that do exist because now they've introduce these ridiculous ideas that are blasphemous, that go against harmony and balance.
Who introduces it though? That's the architects.
We don't know. Maybe these guys are harnessing this from demon. Who knows? Whatever.
It could
Babylon.
It could be.
Ancient Babylon would be the most likely. History. If you go back in history, they're the first civilization.
I mean, that's what we're told. You see, so we're told that that's the first civilization, but I'm
not saying it is. I mean, that's what we know of.
But we're seeing, like, when I think it was Mehdi that told me to look up the LiDAR technology in Africa, right? So they're saying that LiDAR is primarily being used in Africa to map and discover extensive hidden pre-colonial archaeological sites, most notably the large lost stone wall cities of Tswana speaking people around Johannesburg, South Africa. So the laser-based technology is letting people see through dense vegetation, identifying hundreds of formerly unknown homes and cattle kraals from the 15th to 19th centuries. So it's showing that where the South Africans, the Dutch that first went there, and the Portuguese and stuff, that trying to say that these people were uncivilized, and it was basically they're not doing nothing wrong by just enslaving these people and killing them because they're not people. It's showing that they were much more advanced than what they said, that they had homes and cattle kraals from the 15th century. 15th century is around, I think the Dutch arrived around the 16th century. So you're looking at a total like slaughter. I mean, it's horrible. So the lost city of Quenang, located near Johannesburg, this site was revealed by LiDAR to be a major pre-colonial urban center rather than just scattered ruins, featuring 800 homesteads so far found that may have supported a population of around 10,000. Archaeological mapping, right, helps map intricate stone walled settlements, homesteads, cattle enclosures, and roads, stuff that they would say these people didn't have the knowledge to build, that are otherwise invisible and hard to map from the ground, covering several square kilometers. So you have pre-colonial history revival. So these communities had no written records found. Maybe they were burned, who knows, right? But the data provides crucial data, the LiDAR, to understand their social structure, wealth signaled by massive cattle corrals and urbanization. So when you look at projects led by universities like the University of Witwatersrand, and filling significant historical gaps by focusing on these previously misunderstood sites. So are they misunderstood honestly or misunderstood purposely to get the diamonds and the
Well, here's the other thing, that phone you have, that computer you're using right now,
Mhm.
to get those components, for that to become reality, to get the knowledge all together, you know how many civilizations had to be destroyed and how many
It's true.
things had to be uprooted and destroyed to even get the
So you
lithium
mean
or
the
the copper or
mining,
whatever it is,
the
the
mining?
gold and everything.
De
Huh?
Beers. Yeah, De Beers, the big
I'm saying,
one.
I'm saying
South
here, here's the difference. So would you trade that from the walls you have around you now, from the shackles that you have now under this new system, but you get this new tech, but you're treated like a slave and an invalid? Or would you give it away and say, look, I don't need this. I'm just going to live with the forest. At least I'm free. At least I can be one with the forest. You still have that within you
Well,
to do that.
it's like objective.
Which one would you choose?
I would have to trade it back for the forest because if you look
That's
at
you.
it's a harder life. We're gonna die. You know what I'm saying? It's like the greed of wanting to live more is just what it is. Greed. It's like
I never said live more. I said the price that you paid to have this
Mhm.
tech and this super big military,
Well,
all
it's
this
not.
protection.
This tech ain't
That's the
so
price.
great. This tech
I know, but
is
that's part of
convenient.
your enslavement.
Well, I
That's
think
part of your enslavement.
the thing about tech is when people say it's great, it's more they're lacking the ability to describe it properly as it's very convenient. It's very now if we didn't have this tech, let's say we go back to the 90s. I was fine with that. If
That's
it
still high
stayed at
tech.
the
That's still high tech.
1990s, the
That's
early
still high.
1990s, if it stayed to the early 1990s level of tech, I'd be fine. If it stayed with the 80s level of tech, I'd be
But you're
fine.
still having to uproot and destroy many civilizations. Therefore, now you're under contract. Now you're stuck under this thing where they want to own you. Now you have to pay taxes. So
Yeah.
that's the price.
No,
That's the
the
price
taxes
of
is
having
really
this.
coming from, remember the last stream, well, you guys weren't here, is about the insanity laws. So
Mhm.
basically, it's prerogative, I think, regis, the king's prerogative. So they're saying that, and could be why they try to keep people in a perpetual state of immaturity, saying that look, they're not able to take care of themselves, they're insane. So now we can sentence them to work, slave labor, and also we have to govern over them. They can't own anything, they can't do what they want to do. They're insane. They don't know what they're doing. So we have to be the ones that are the ward of these people. The
Okay,
ward.
so the
Can
guy
I
the,
mention
the guy
the
you
MD real quick?
the guy you're talking about, the ones that are saying that, those are the ones that I'm saying that fracture this whole thing.
Yeah.
Imbalance.
Yeah.
But think about it, MD. We got to think in terms like say the Godfather movie, Part 3. Our true enemy has not revealed himself.
Uh-huh.
Joey Zaza, he's just muscle. So we got to differentiate between the muscle and the one who's really behind the scenes pulling the strings. Because if you
Yeah.
just deal with the muscle, you don't solve anything. You don't solve anything. You just play right into the hands of the person pulling the strings.
Exactly. No, you're right about that. And that's where it comes from. I don't think we're going to figure that out. We're getting older. We're going to die soon. So it's like one guy put it, he goes, you're young and you're revolutionary and all of that. And by the time you figure it out, you're old and you're ready to die. So it's like the finite lifespan where the Sumerian king block with the Code of Hammurabi, talking about how some kings ruled for 12,000 years and stuff like that. And this is where, again, the evolutionists hold us back because they're so full of themselves thinking they know everything and that the dating methods are correct, which we've shown that they're not. When you think of something, or say something that looks human, we know that some humans have stronger bones. They will not break their bones, 6 times stronger than the average human. Now, the majority of those humans that have stronger bones, they say most of them are African. Now, if they've been on this planet's surface the longest, maybe they adapt more and became stronger as far as skeletal structure. Not all, but some, because only a small percentage have that. So when we look at these things and we say, okay, what if there were humans that could live to 700, 800, 900 years old? Imagine the knowledge that that person would have and the advantage that they would have. They could just say, you know, I'm not even going to bother with you. I'm just going to outlive you. You'll be dead in 100 years, or at least you'll be to a point where you'll be waiting to die. Now, if we take that to the next level, which almost seems unbelievable, from 800 years old, what if a human or some type of being could live to be 8,000 years?
That's probably why they shorten our lifespan, because of technology. Because technology can move at such rapid rates, they don't want you to be around to see AI or to see things. Because in my lifetime, I would have never thought we would have gotten to this point. You know, the herb being legal, the AI thing, all these other things like that. You know, we watching Star Trek, Star Wars, okay, fantasy. All of a sudden now, they got stuff that resembles. It's like this is. You can't make this up. So I would think that the speed at which we're doing these things has cost us these extra abilities.
No, I think people weren't living too long. Like, and they try to say that, you know, they were living short lifespans, you know, thousands of years ago. I don't think that's true. I think people have maintained about 100, 150-year lifespan for maybe a couple of hundred years, maybe even a couple of thousand years. But the crazy thing is to even speculate within an area they don't want us to speculate. Objective, good to see you, brother. He said, hey, who you calling a chicken? What's good, fam? What's good, brother? Always a pleasure to see you. Sumer was the first civilization we have archaeological evidence for. Well, we have archaeological evidence for a civilization that was older than Sumer, and it's called Dvarka. It's underneath the water off the coast of Mohenjo-daro, India. So that civilization, you can look this up, Dvarka, it is the only time it was above water was roughly between 12 and 14,000 years ago. So this is a scientific fact. Dvarka was an old civilization, and there were a few more sites that had old civilizations that go back a lot further than Sumer. Sumer is the one that they try to commonly agree upon. And the crazy thing about Sumer is that when you look at the ziggurat in Iraq, which ancient Mesopotamia, right? The military took that over during the Iraq invasion. Now that contained a lot of prehistoric artifacts and possibly technology. So they use war as a way of destroying any type of stuff that would give rise to civilization.
You have that going on, but I'm saying, do you honestly think we're going to know when they've said you can't go to the North Pole, can't go to the South Pole, can't go here, can't go there? Do you honestly think we have any answers when we're restricted?
Well, we're going to
like
have
that.
Some. The truth
No,
has
that changes the whole thing. If you're only able to see 20% of the map, and they restrict 80, you know, the other 75%, you have no idea what's over there. You can only base your supposed facts off that 25% that you do know that they're basing all this stuff off of, right? That's your.
Well, also, we can use psychology. We can use the powers we have, the power of deduction, to know if somebody's lying. So when we know, like, yes, the Orthodox thing is Sumer was the oldest civilization. But when we think about that, Dvarka, how can you spell that? It's D, because, you know, the Indians have a, if Azarun was in the chat, if he wants to hang on, Dvarka, ancient city of Mohenjo-daro. I think that's how you spell Mohenjo-daro. West Coast, India. Mohenjo-daro might not be spelled correctly, but Dvarka is spelled that way. It's pronounced like the German thing for like when they say "what is happening," like "what are you thinking?" So the W they pronounce it like a V. So it's Dvarka. I should have just called it Dvarka. And even like, you know, with the V in German is foul, because I think it's Abe say de ge ef ha yot. Then when it gets down to te u, yes, because T is te, U is u, so te u foul, uv. So V, like a person's name Van Buren is really Van Buren. So foul, ix, wait, no, foul, they. So W is they, and that's why they pronounce like Vat or Dvarka. But yeah, if you look up Dwarka, the ancient city that is underwater, off the coast of India. And the crazy thing about it was they banned diving there. Now I'll see what I can find, because what Mehdi said too about the LIDAR, that they're finding stuff in Africa too under the let me look up Dwarka, under the dense vegetation. I typed in Dwarka and immediately came up the lost city. So Dwarka, known as the legendary Lord Krishna's capital in Hindu text in the Mahabharata, it's believed to have been submerged under the Arabian Sea off the coast of Gujarat, India, which the Arabian Sea makes no sense. That's actually, I think, the Indian Oceans, around 3102 BC, making it 5,000, but it goes much further than that. This is, Google is always off the coast of, let me see, off the coast of Mohenjo-daro. There was a guy who did a, Mohenjo-daro, all right, submerged ruins. So Dwarka off the coast of Manjaro, but it's really Mohenjo-daro. I don't know why they do this, man. Okay, Dwarka off the coast, submerged city. I'm just trying to find, because with AI, man, they change stuff. Let me see. The legend of the Mahabharata and the Puranas, Krishna built this fortified city, which was later submerged after his, let me see, when was the last time Dwarka, because I have it in the book, Flooded Kingdoms of the Ice Age. When was Dwarka submerged? Maybe that'll, see, they try to say between 1500 and 3500 BC. How is that accurate? So you're looking at a 2,000-year guess in there. And it's like, this is crazy. But then they have an alternative dating in this one. When was Dwarka submerged? It says archaeological evidence from 83 to 90. The National Institute of Oceanography found structures, walls, and anchors suggesting a 3,500 to 4,000-year-old city. Now, this is under 100 feet of water. Alternative dating, some studies suggest a much older date, ranging from 7,000 to 9,000 BCE. So you're looking at 9,000 plus 2, 11,000 years ago. Different interpretations and geological changes in the Arabian Sea. Again, they keep calling the Arabian Sea. That's like calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. The Mahabharata said the sea surged and flooded the city immediately after the death of Krishna, causing the Yadava clan's capital submerge. I gotta find, is it true that it was found? Okay, so they're at least admitting that. So yeah, I guess if you look it up a little deeper, I think Scribe bounced. I was on the other window. So let me see. So we're looking at Dwarka. Okay, when were sea levels? All right, when were sea levels low enough to expose the city, the underwater city, because if you ask AI the right questions, it's like hitting the jackpot. It's like it hides it. Of Dwarka. Okay, sea levels. So now it's trying to say, again, the coastal area where underwater city is found roughly, they're saying roughly 3,000 to 5,000 years ago during the mid-Holocene period. But again, they say India's western coasts were approximately 2 to 4 meters lower, with some studies indicating even earlier, deeper water levels around 9 to 10,000 years ago during the post-ice age. Geological timeline. Studies show that about 15,000 years ago, sea levels were 100 meters lower, and they gradually rose, reaching up to 20, 30 meters below current levels around 3,500 years ago. So it had to be lower than the 3,500 date, because it's not just going to be low enough to show the city. You're going to have it low enough for it to be a coastal city. And what if it wasn't even a coastal city? If it was an inland city, so now you're pushing the date back a little further. That's the way science is supposed to work. The alternatives theories, while some proponents suggest a much older date based where it had lower levels, 9, 10,000 years ago, mainstream science, that's the key word, consensus tends to align with the later post 3000 BCE, which is still 5,000. But when I look at that word mainstream science, there's no such thing as mainstream science. It's either science or not science. You know, that's basically what it is. I don't know if you're still there, X, but it's either science or it's not science. There's no mainstream science. When they say mainstream science, that's lamestream science. That's the lamestream. It's like telling you, well, this is what we're paid to tell you, as opposed for independent researchers telling you, you know, what they found without being paid. So they're more likely to give you the more honest opinion. Now, there are videos on this too, that you can look up on YouTube, and I would recommend that objective. That if you look up the video on YouTube, The Lost City of Dvarka, by a guy that had a channel called Ancient Explorers. I think he used to be on Facebook years ago. He's an Indian guy that has family from India that went there, and he said people were disappearing that were on the team for that investigation. So now it gets even more interesting. So people that would have allowed him to go and dive were now deceased. And these were not old people. So it was like an open cover up. And he said, look, this is they're hiding evidence again. But Graham Hancock is probably one of the strongest proponents to say, look, this is what was used to date it, and this is why we get this kind of date. Yeah, definitely, man. You got it, brother, man. It's always. And thank you for being so open to reading it, bro. We have Dvarka. Also, if you look up, I'll type this, Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japanese island. This is another one to check out. The Yonaguni Monument. So now that's another submerged one. Let me see. When were the sea to expose the underwater Yonaguni Monument? So now this is a good one. The Yonaguni Monument, if created by human hands, when you look at this structure, my brother, when you look at this structure, now this one will pop up right away. If you look at the structure of this, they're trying to say that it's not man-made. This is clearly man-made. The Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan. When were sea levels low enough to expose the underwater Yonaguni Monument? I typed that in. Roughly 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. So this was one of the first ones in the mid-90s that I was researching when Graham Hancock had went over there and did underwater dives. During this period, sea levels were significantly lower, and it was part of a land bridge connecting to the Asian continent. So this is when Japan, parts of it was actually connected to Asia. And at that same time, they have a legend in England where Doggerland connected England to that part of Europe or Western Asia. So they're saying in the Yonaguni monument, they have a debate over the origin. While some researchers like Masaki Kimura initially suggested a 10,000-year-old origin, many geologists argue the formation is natural. So they had to bring it to say, wait a minute, this is too old, because now this is talking about something. I mean, I'm looking at it now, man, and Yonaguni is straight. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Mr. X, Yonaguni monument.
Yonaguni, who's he?
Yonaguni was a monument. It's a monument off the coast. I'm going to see if I can share the screen. Let me see. Hopefully, it'll let me share screen. Okay, share screen window. Okay, bang. I think this is. Tell me if you see this, Mr. X.
Yeah, I'm on my iPhone, so.
Oh, okay, it might be a little harder. So
zoom in a little bit.
This is the underwater Yonaguni monument to the right. I don't know if it's showing.
Is that in Japan? Is that in Japan?
Yeah, that's in Japan. This looks kind of man-made. I don't know if you noticed this.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures. I don't know if it was the same one, but these structures off the Japanese coast, no, they look 100% man-made.
Yeah. So now the last time this one is like, look at this one. Holy smokes. The last time this was above water, you're looking at 10 to 12,000 years ago. It could even date back a little further to 14,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's another one. So, and I'm so glad my brother Objective Ethics is checking this out, man. That makes me feel, yeah, it's definitely, they're calling it that a geological site. Interesting. Yeah, man. If you look at Yonaguni, like the one I was just showing, man, look at the pictures, and I would say make the assessment for yourself, bro, because it is clearly, it is clearly, it looks to be man-made, man. I mean, I've been researching.
Also, like evidence for the flood, don't you agree, MD? Because obviously they built the civilization on dry land at that time.
Yeah, no, well, definitely there were floods. There were, without a doubt. There were definitely floods. There's no doubt that the thing with that is that it could be where it wasn't a total flood, is that the ice age. So if the ice age, when more water is on the caps of the ice age, the water levels, of course, are going to be lower around the globe, right? So if the ice on the caps of the planet are melted to a certain extent to submerge that, it raises the water level up to the current level we see today. So it doesn't necessarily, not saying that it couldn't have been a flood, it doesn't necessarily have to be a flood. It's just an increase in the water levels by 200 to 300 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So now that would seem like a flood to the people that live on these coastal areas. They would have to go inland. Now, of course, there's other evidence showing that there was massive tidal wave type floods that pushed the sea creatures that they find on the tops of the Himalayan mountains,
yeah,
and the Andes mountains. Now, again, we have to look at all scientific angles. They're trying to say that these sea creatures up there were when the tectonic plates were underwater. Now, of course, we don't have no way of observing that. So that's very convenient, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we can't observe it, right? But
I actually agree with Ken Hoven's, but I'll say that after you're done. Ken Hoven's explanation.
They also, the thing that scientifically refutes that is the clams are closed.
Yes.
Some of the fossils showing that those clams were living. So if it were where those tectonic plates rose, you would find clam shells that they slowly rise. So the living clams aren't going to stay there because clams swim. They can move through propulsion, a type of jet propulsion, actually, like squids. So now you would find open half clam shells, dead clams. But the fact that you see closed clam shells, that points toward something washing them up that high while they were still alive.
Yeah, and being submerged underwater and receding very gently back down.
Yeah, something like that. So I don't know. What were you going to say about?
Well, Ken Hovind, and I agree with this theory. I think it's excluding his religious beliefs and stuff like that. But he does say that he believes the fault lines that we have right now, they opened up basically, and that's what this ocean beneath the ocean floor, which has been scientifically proven, by the way, there is another ocean even deeper, came up,
Mm-hmm.
and it came through these fault lines. That's where the majority of the flooding occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he says it's most likely that's what created a lot of the mountain ranges too, which would make sense. So
It,
it's possible that these clamshells maybe possibly rose up, when the mountains were created, when the fault lines spread apart
mm-hmm.
and gave height to these mountains. They were already there on the ocean floor and just kind of rose up as the mountain, started rising.
So you're
Being
saying they
created.
rose up quickly?
Yeah, a
That's a
certain.
possibility. That is a possibility, without a doubt. We see that with certain geological formations, twisted mountains and stuff. Um, Let me see, twisted mountains. I'll see if I can say.
Aren't mountains also losing their height each year? They lose a little bit. It gets lower and lower, the elevation of the mountains.
I mean, some of those things say that,
Mhm.
but when I look at it, it's like, it's hard to really, corroborate that for sure. I'm not saying it couldn't exist.
Mhm.
I'm looking for the pictures of the twisted mountains to see if I can get some good ones, because it shows that some mountains, the way they're folded, had to have been created quickly.
Yeah,
Like what you were saying, like the rock was either molten and it created like in a bent form. All
a
right,
bent form, exactly.
this is a good one. Hopefully it lets me save it. Okay, this one, I'm going to try to upload it. And this is great, man. I hope Ethics is still watching this. Let me try to upload this one. All right, this one here. All right, this is one of the mountains. Brother Ali, good to see you, brother. Always a pleasure, bro. Objective says his phone's down. Be right back. Get hooked up. Cool, man. Cool. Timbo, always a pleasure. He said Graham Hancock has a big name, but Michael Cremo is the man. Brian Forrester, cool dude too. I spoke with him on Skype over a decade ago. Jim Vieira, he researches a lot of the North American stuff. Klaus Donna, yeah, he's deep. Do have some good information on lost civilizations. Exactly. Klaus Donna had a flute that he was saying that it looks like prehistoric people had notes on the flute that aren't known in modern music today. So he had, yeah, Klaus Donna. I haven't heard that in a while. But look at this, Mr. X. This is a mountain, right? This is
Yes.
not going to form by slow. This is like the rock being molten and bending.
Yes, exactly.
So this is not a slow formation. This is not millions of years right here. So looking at the geological record in this way, we start to learn a lot more when we look at these mountains. I'm trying to see if they have, because they have a few.
Fault lines opened up and they created these mountains, sort of like, pushing something and it starts crunching up, if it hits a wall or a brick wall, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's some speculate that they're lowering because the fault lines themselves, when we have earthquakes, are basically moving back towards each other.
Yes.
The theory. So that's why the mountains will be lowering. They're all interconnected somehow from that flood. But there is an ocean beneath the ocean's floor. I think it was Japan discovered that. I can't remember which scientific group. They discovered an ocean that exists underneath the ocean floor, much larger than our ocean above the ocean floor, much larger ocean.
It's amazing when you think about it. The fact that,
a lot of evidence for a flood. And it's like, let's just go where the evidence leads. I'm not saying be religious. I'm not saying anything like that. Let's look at the evidence and accept where it leads. Unlike the evolutionists, which, unless it leads to evolution, they don't want to see it, which is like, that's living in Fantasy Island as far as I'm concerned. You don't want to live in reality.
Yeah, that's what exactly. They definitely, I'm uploading the polystrata fossils. I'm pretty sure you've heard of them, right?
I think so, but I'd love to see it.
So polystrata fossils, I thought I had this other one saved. Let me see. Polystrata fossils are fossils that go through the layers that they say take millions of years to form.
Hmm.
The polystrata fossils are found of fossilized trees, right? This is one of them right here.
Yes,
So
I've seen that. Ken
yeah, so
Hovind
you see,
showed that
yeah,
actually.
the petrified tree going through that, showing that they all had to be formed at the same. The tree, if it would have been intruded through the fossils, you would
Hmm.
see a different type of. You'd see like the push down of the rock. Um, there's just no possible explanation for this not being formed at one time. When
That's
you see
completely
these,
fossilized instantaneously. There's no other
yeah,
way.
so yeah, exactly. So the layers, when we look at experiments in stratification, we start to see that these layers form all at once,
And
especially when
that's
you
a
look at
great
the,
picture. That's a great picture you put up
yeah.
there.
If they were to cut off the side, the left side of that picture where the bend is,
Hmm.
people would say that those levels are it took millions of years to make.
No way. No
You
way.
know, and we know that it didn't. You know what I'm saying? Because you already know how it works. Um, let me see, Mount St. Helens.
I mean, they said the Grand Canyon was formed by the river flowing upstream. That's the official scientific version of it. Whereas Ken Hovind's view of the Great Flood creating the Grand Canyon makes a lot more sense, actually. It washed
Yeah,
away, create this.
yeah, he gets a little, you know, him bringing in as a religion, it throws the science. I mean,
Unfortunately, it does, but I'll just take it as science. I'll leave the religious part out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I
no,
cut it out.
definitely,
Editing film. You know what I mean?
you know, definitely the Mount St. Helens one. So this is another good one from
Let me
Mount St. Helens. Let's see. The Mount
go
St.
here.
Helens one. I just saved it. I should have had these uploaded before. So this is the Mount St. Helens one, and we know for sure from 1980 these layers were formed
Mhm.
within 5 days, and then over a
Yes.
few months, you know. So you see the top layer there on top is much darker
Hmm.
at the top part, and you see a seam going horizontally. They would say
Hmm.
that, oh, that took, you know, so many millions of years of the dirt. Where's the dirt falling from? The sky? I've never seen stuff. Now you see the layers in the middle one. So in the
Hmm.
middle one, you're seeing these layers. And
Hmm.
those, of course, they would say, oh, well, you know, it took millions of years. And you see the person on the bottom, how small the person is.
This is the
So
top of Mount Everest. The top of it.
no, this is Mount St. Helens. The
Oh, Mount.
when it exploded and all of the pyroclastic, the hot lava rock from the explosion started flowing. They call it pyroclastic flows.
Hmm.
That flows, and then water started to carve through this and made and exposed what we see here within a few days, and some of it within a few hours of it,
Hmm.
and then it made it with a few days. So we're seeing here evidence of layers forming almost like with very quickly,
Yeah.
instantaneously. Geology. All right, the layer layers formed, revealing the 1982 eruption. So we have that. I'm trying to see if there's better pictures of Mount St. Helens. Origins controversy, because it's very controversial. Like, what's controversial about it? The only thing that's controversial about it is the fact that it goes against the evolutionary theory,
Exactly.
and science is supposed to change, right, according to evidence, not trying to fit stuff to change evidence to fit a theory.
Hmm. I just find it amazing that people would say, "Oh, nobody," they would never lie about it. They have so much trust in this system that they would actually believe something like that. That these people would never lie. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's just ridiculous.
Well, the thing is, when they're caught lying, that's the problem. It's like how objective ethics had said, if somebody were to steal your coconuts, right, you would
Hmm.
eventually, you know, you wouldn't trust them because they're stealing the coconuts. So that is very true. Like, it's to say, unless somebody's just something's wrong mentally, you know, the person just doesn't get it,
Or if
or
they
maybe
lie to
they,
you and say, "We're saving them for you for later."
yeah, like something, but normally what he's saying, it makes sense. If somebody steals from you, okay, you can't trust that person. So with evolutionists that I showed getting caught lying, falsifying Piltdown Man, Nebraska Man, Heidelberg Man, Java Man, Peking Man, the list goes on of falsified fossils that were exposed. Professor Prost, who falsified the Neanderthal skeletons when they find out they were regular human skeletons. Some dated to like the 1700s, 1750. It was crazy. 30 years he was doing this. He got caught trying to sell like fragments of over 200 different chimpanzee fossils. Well, not fossils, but basically bones. Because I don't know if anybody knows that there is no fossils of chimpanzees ever found. So that's another thing. When they say, oh, well, the chimp ate to man, there's no known fossils of a chimpanzee, period. They try to now say, oh, well, there's some teeth, but what? The teeth like Nebraska Man, when they said it was Nebraska Man and found out it was from a pig. Yeah. And they said it was an extinct pig, then found out the pig wasn't even extinct. So it's like, it's lie after lie. Now, this right here shows that the bottom thickness was May 18th. The middle was June 1980. So, and the top was March 1982. So within 2 months, the bottom and the middle formed. Gotcha. And then within 2 years after that, the top formed. So you're looking at something that they would have said is millions of years to form this.
Yes.
Millions of years when it took 2 years. 2 years. And something found in that, they'll say, well, we date again. And this is something evolutionists need to question about the dating method. How old is the fossil? Well, they date the fossil according to the layer that it was found in, which is a guess, as we see that in the pictures we showed. The stratification is totally off in dating, and which logically that inference makes sense. Oh, yeah, those lower ones must be older. That's not true scientifically. No. Then you say, well, you dated the fossil because it was found in what you said was an older layer. Well, how do you know how old the layer is? Oh, we tell you how old the layer is by the fossil we found in it. And you say to yourself, wait a second. Let me try to grasp this. So you're telling me the age of the fossil is guessed by the age of the layer. So let's just say, okay, you're saying that these layers took this long to build, this many millions of years, 2 inches for every million years, say 4 inches. That's roughly the scale, right? So you're looking at so many feet, so many tens and hundreds of millions of years. And that's how you're telling me that when you find a fossil on the bottom, it's been 200 million years, it's been fossilized, right? Now you're saying, okay, you're guesstimating that, right? So
big guesstimation. Big
guesstimation. So it's like saying, okay, so you're telling me that a fossil found in this bottom layer is so many millions of years old, but you're just guessing that. And now to tell me how old those layers are, because it's guesstimation, but you're gonna fine tune it now. How do you fine tune that? Well, by the fossil I found in it. Well, wait, but you're telling me the fossil, you're telling me how old the fossil is because it's found at this depth layer. And then you're going to tell me that the depth layer is as old as it is because of the type of fossil found in the depth layer.
Yeah.
It's beyond circular.
Like chicken and the egg, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's straight. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
What came first, the fossil or the layer?
And again, there's no type of dating that can date, and even carbon dating has its flaws, but it can't date after 70,000 years. Not even 70 million, 35,000 is pushing it. And these datings have been off due to the type of stuff it's found in. So if you found a bone, Michael Kreml brought this up, and this goes into belief, how dangerous belief is, the title of the stream.
Sure.
He showed things like if you find a bone in limestone, it throws the date off, as opposed to if it's finding a different type of strata, or if it's fossilized, in sedimentary rock, where sediments, fill in the bone, and now it's in that. So you're getting two different dates. The same thing with tree rings. Richard Milton talked about that tree rings, you would normally think, just like the strata, you'd say, okay, the strata must be different ages, which we see scientifically is incorrect, which is astonishing to say the least. I have to admit, when I first read Michael Cremo's book, was like, okay, strata is accurate dating. It's accurate. Then you start to say, wait a second, it's not accurate, right?
No.
So you say, what actually? So what's an accurate method of dating? And we don't really know. We're not really sure. And
it's no different than the other religious people with beliefs.
Yeah.
You can't get away from that.
Yeah. The dating game is so, it's ridiculous, the dating game. The amount of discrepancies within, and there's, anybody can look up the videos, laws, experiments of stratification, where you see the strata form in test when you throw different levels, different amounts of gravel, different sizes. They'll settle out according to density as it flows along the water flow. It'll start to level out. It's kind of like when you take one of those toys and shake it up, and layers of sand settle in different layers. I forgot what the toy is called. It's like a sand toy with water in it, and when you shake it up, the sand settles, and you'll see layers to the sand, and it settles according to the density of the sand. This is the same stuff we saw happen with Mount St. Helens, an observable fact. And we see that in the Grand Canyon all over, that they magically tell us took millions of years, and the Colorado River took millions of years to carve through it, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the scientific model. So Mount St. Helens strata layer. Now, this is the thing about those strata layers, that one that was formed on the top, right? Consisting up to 400 feet of rapidly deposited volcanic material, including airfall ash, pyroclastic flows, and mud flows. So when we saw those different layers on the thing, you have those three things in there. You have in these layers, on the top is ash. So that's ash flows. Now in between, in the middle, you see a little bit of strata. That's a mix of ash and mud flow and pyroclastic flows. So the bottom is also pyroclastic flows. So, and this is science. This is what we've observed. So these deposits created distinct thin horizontal and graded bedding in minutes to days, challenging traditional geological timescales for sedimentation. This is a fact. 1980 rapid deposits on June 12, 1980, a single event created 25 feet of stratified layers, ash pumice, in just 3 hours, featuring thin lamina, 1 millimeter to 1 meter thick. The lahars and mud flows, these created thick, poorly sorted layers that filled surrounding valleys. Then the pyroclastic flow deposits, ground-hugging hot volcanic debris, formed laminar, fine-grained ash beds and coarse sand layers. So pre-1980, we have the tephra sets, the older strata, including distinctive sets of tephra, like sets J and T, representing past eruptive activity over what they try to say 13,000 years. But with this type of evidence, we're seeing that it's totally different now. We're seeing that we're not sure about those 13,000 plus years. Often interbedded with old soil surfaces. Internal structure. 1980 eruption revealed older volcanic cone layers composed of alternating tephra, andesite, and dacite or dacite. I forgot how you pronounce that. Rapid stratification. Volcanic ash flows produce thin alternating layers of fine mud and coarse sand grains. So the amount of different things that we've seen just from the strata dating on Mount St. Helens, it turns the archaeological dating method on its head. It turns it on its head. And this is, it can be unnerving because it's like saying, I would have thought it makes sense, inference. It looks logical that the underneath layers are going to be older than the on top layers. So if you find a fossil in it, and especially when they find like all the clams and stuff fossilized, and they'll say, oh, well, these came from, the Cambrian period or something very, very old, hundreds of millions of years old. And then if you find a reptile in a middle layer, because maybe the density is not as dense as the clams and all of that, they'll say, well, yeah, that came from this other period, the Cretaceous or something, the made up name of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people, it looks believable. I have to admit, it's a well crafted lie until the truth exposes itself once again, from like the eruption, the Yonaguni Monument,
Mm-hmm.
city of Dwarka underneath the coastal waters. Look at the Bimini Road.
Yeah, Bimini Road. I'm familiar with that one
and they have even older stuff in off the coast of Cuba. This Russian lady was doing
I
research.
saw a pyramid, right? A pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What appears to be, but you're looking at, I think some of those things are like extremely deep, like a mile deep.
Mm-hmm. More evidence of a flood. More evidence of a flood. There was a civilization that is now flooded out or been destroyed.
That is real. That means the water levels were extremely low.
Yeah, I believe it was. I believe it was for sure. I definitely think that was the case. Much lower than we see today. Much lower than we see today. But on the evolutionist side, think about it. How much money you got? Universities, you got grants, you've got so much money that goes into like evolution is a never-ending thing, So
Yeah.
the people who support it, guess what? That gives them a job. That gives them a high-paying job. That gives them grants. That gives them research and development grants. So that's their motivation. So I understand why they get so angry, because every university has an evolution department, and all those departments are funded and gives people salaries. So that's what hides the truth. If we just come to the conclusion that it was created, well, that's going to eliminate a lot of jobs, because if evolution overnight became total BS and nobody believed it anymore and science rejects it, a lot of people will be out of a lot of money. So that's the motivation. I think that's more the motivation than the actual real belief in it, because it's got so many flaws. I mean, science knows, even the most diehard evolutionist knows in the back of his mind, this theory doesn't work, but he's never going to admit that, of course,
This and you got a good point. They're saying that the structure off the coast of Cuba, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have actual pictures. I think they got people regenerating computer pictures, but they are saying that they think it's suspected by some to be a 6,000-year-old submerged urban complex.
Mm.
What are images they're using to map this? Organized stone edifices, including pyramid and circular shapes at depths of 600 to 750 meters. So you're looking at 2,000 plus feet.
Wow,
That's like almost a half a mile.
That is deep, yeah. And a pyramid, like we say, it's not just excluded to Egypt. There's just not just Egypt who has it. It's all over the world. You find these pyramids.
Pyramid-like. In 2001, marine engineer Pauline, Zalitsky. So that, I think she's Russian, and Paul Weinsweg, working with advanced digital communications, detected these structures on the seafloor doing a survey. Apparent sonar images reveal huge, smooth blocks arranged in patterns resembling buildings and city centers, often referred to as a lost city. The depth and location, site located off the straits in the Straits of Florida off the western tip of Cuba, at a depth too deep for typical human diving.
Mm.
Okay, so the controversy, while
It
initially
supports more that these pyramids were energy producers rather than tombs, because that seems to be more in line. Like it was the energy
oh
that
yeah,
was
they definitely
fuel
yeah,
the
it's
city.
not tombs, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely not tombs. It just the ones in Egypt that they do find bodies in are much lesser made pyramids. They're not these gigantic structures.
Right.
And when they do find the tombs, they find all the writing and stuff on the tombs. So you can see the difference between what would
Hmm.
be a tomb. Uh, some experts like geologist Manuel Iturralde suggested these could be natural rock formations, although their symmetrical appearance is quite striking. So again, he's a geologist, so he's paid, to do this. So
Hey,
right
exactly.
there. And the fact that he's like, oh, well, it's symmetrical, they're quite striking. It's like, really? I think it's a little more than quite striking. Early reports estimated the structures could date back over 6,000 years, predating the Egyptian, but the Egyptian pyramids could be much older than what they're saying there are as
Exactly.
well. There's a guy that has an app, right? And they've done these experiments where they've simulated a global flood on the globe. And
Mm.
it showed the way it would wash up on certain mountains and stuff like that. And it showed that the pyramid that has the casing stones at the top, I think it's the middle pyramid. I think it might be Caffrey, and well, attributed to Caffrey because they don't know who really built it. And
Right.
it says it was shown that that's why those capstones might actually have survived. Now, I didn't know that they found salt deposits on the bottom part of that pyramid.
Really.
So now that's showing that salt deposits come from seawater.
Yep.
So now we have another piece of the puzzle that's adding in to and this is beautiful. This is where I like I this is what I enjoy because I'm looking at something that's real science to say,
And real history too. Doesn't real history get a lot more exciting than the book, the nonsense history?
yeah, exactly. It goes beyond biblical history,
Hmm.
beyond textbook, the evolution religion history, and it's saying, look, how do you even account for this? We have to live, we're forced to live with the mystery of not being able to date certain things that seem
Hmm.
very old. And I understand why some people look at it where it might not be as old, or the young earth creationists. I don't agree with that because it
Hmm.
just doesn't, I know they have an agenda
Yeah,
but
I agree with that. I agree 100%. They have an agenda.
yeah,
I'm talking about the religious people.
yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, but we know for a fact that polystrata fossils that we showed, it's just showing you that this is happening at one time, just like Mount St. Helens. The polystrata fossils are showing up in these things. The bent mountain rock showing that it happens at once, and the
Hmm.
Mount St. Helens showing that it happens within a period of months to 2 years with pyroclastic flows, mud flows, gravel and sand, and ash deposits. Because the stuff that went up in the air, was landing at certain intervals.
Sure.
But
But
yeah,
we
man,
can definitely agree there was a great catastrophe that happened on this earth. There was a civilization very advanced that existed, and something wiped them out. That's what all the evidence points to. I'm just
yeah,
keeping it honest. There's plenty to support that.
yeah,
Plenty of artifacts, of
yeah,
geological finds to support that that's what happened.
yeah. Human history goes back way further. And then
Hmm.
when I was looking into stuff, I was doing research a while back about the second dimension, the shadow.
Sure.
And, shadows are not limited to the third dimension, how we have height. So you have length, width, and height, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the theory of them being possibly like ghost type of things or beings like that, they wouldn't be limited to travel to stop by walls or anything that's vertical.
Oh,
Hence,
you know what? Shadow people?
or
Shadow people?
shadow people or shadow beings or, shadow dimension, second
Well,
dimension.
here's where it gets a little crazy because I personally have had an interaction with a shadow person. Only one time, though. Only one time.
Hmm.
And what happens is, like, I was asleep, and it actually has force. It can actually try and keep your mouth shut. It was doing that to me. But by the time I was able to break out of it and look, the thing just shoots into the corner and disappears. It doesn't want you to see its full form. It just shoots
Wow.
immediately. Yeah. And I'd watched documentaries about this afterwards, and it's very similar. Similar occurrences. That I can just on my own experience. He's like, "Well, prove it." Ugh. I'm not saying it's scientific. It's just something I experienced one time in my life. Just like sleep paralysis, I experienced it one time in my life, not again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a very unpleasant experience too. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And neither was the shadow person. That wasn't fun either. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a good time. You know what I mean? But I happened to experience it. Now, it could be related to people who are in the occult who might live near you. Like if you're near that,
Hmm.
then you could probably get some experience with that. If you have some people who are practicing in that type of
It's
uh
possible. Yeah.
yeah. But they're real. They're
Yeah.
real.
I mean, it could be. I was going to do tomorrow's show about it. I just got to put together some more
Hmm.
research and pictures because a lot of people are doing videos about like shadow beings and stuff. I just don't think they're doing it in a scientific way. Like what I was thinking, if something is from the second dimension, how we cast the
Or
shadow,
the fourth, you mean? The fourth? Or you
well,
okay.
not the fourth, just between the second and the third.
Hmm.
Scribe and I was talking earlier today, and I was like, well, if you have how we cast a shadow, he goes, yeah, but you need light to cast the shadow. I said, yeah. I
Exactly.
said, but light only allows us to see the shadow. That's not
Hmm.
saying that the shadow doesn't exist without light. So I'm not saying it does, but I'm saying what we have, saying that light is the only way to create a shadow is might not be as correct. It's to say, no, the light is allowing us to see it. And the
Sure.
absence of the light is like, okay, so we're casting it, it's what we're blocking, we're casting the shadow. But what happens in darkness? What happens, it's like why couldn't shadows, maybe the second dimension is alive. And one of my theories is what if that these shadow beings are looking to inhabit a third dimensional body to project itself onto, which could explain the type of
Mhm.
possession thing. And now they're not limited to walls. So how people say, oh, well, ghosts travel through walls, but not traveling through on a vertical axis where you see it coming through the wall, but
Mhm.
sliding underneath it because nothing that's vertical can affect it. It lives on a two-dimensional plane with length and width. So now these things might be looking to hijack a three-dimensional body.
But I wanted to make something about light because maybe light can is the only thing that can penetrate different dimensions. Maybe that's what it is.
I mean, it's possible, but
Mhm.
I mean, there might be a way where light can dissipate them, but also when something is blocking the light, it creates a shadow. So it's a really deep concept to look into. I'm not saying,
It is.
I'm hoping to get really deep with it soon. Timbo
And I
said,
didn't see the. Oh, Timbo had an experience. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
said, me too, X at 17. I woke up to the weird, sinister presence in my room and opened my eyelids to see the shadow standing at the left of my hole. That's creepy. I fought to move, and as soon as I did, uh, it was like a time jump to morning. I sat on the edge of the bed, wide awake, wondering what the WTF was that. Wow.
See, it
Wow.
happens to other people too. It's not just
That's,
these are life experiences that
yeah,
a lot of people go
yeah.
through. He
That's
didn't
some
let me see
deep
the
stuff.
shadow. He took off into the corner and dissipated. Basically, I
That's
was able
some,
to catch a glimpse of it, but like disorganized. Yeah.
yeah. It would be amazing. And with the technology we have today, it would just be a matter of how much memory that you have on your device is to film yourself when you're sleeping, which is
That
which
would
is
be.
what I think would be, yeah, because that could actually show something. And they have the night camera division is like everywhere, so you could film in pitch darkness. You know, I don't know
I
if
think you have to measure energy though somehow, like electrical energy, some type of current or something.
Mhm.
The camera would have to be able to decipher, which I'm sure they
I
have
mean,
cameras.
there's so many apps. There might be a way to do that, or even if you got a laptop, you know, have it like to where it's like, okay, it's recording and you're sleeping. So if anything, it will record possibly in infrared or, you know, night vision mode, because just the regular surveillance cameras have night vision.
Yeah.
That might be the way, but yeah, I got to wake up a little early. It's 1:30, man. I appreciate you being on it with me. I appreciate Scribe coming on. Everybody in the chat, man, thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow night, yeah, or tonight, you know, we'll talk about the shadow beings and stuff.
That'll be great. Yeah. Thanks for having the stream, MD.
All right, man.
Looking
We'll
forward to
talk
tonight.
soon. All right. Good night.
Thanks.